throw your uppercut, try to hit me in the gut, thinking that I won't react. You whispering my name, thinking I won't be the same. Turn fiction into fact. See what you didn't know, bruises that I'll never show, slipping on your every jab. So tighten up your fist, step into the ring with this. I hope your mama's got your back. First round, you thought you would've knocked me down. Fifth round, bleeding out the side of your mouth. Final round, holding the sound of my name in the crowd. You hit a bus. Oh, 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 oh. You hit a bus. Oh, 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 oh. Just 'cause I took a break, you're making a huge mistake, thinking you can take the throne. Look at you trembling, step into the lion's den, bet you wish you stayed at home. Begging for mercy underneath your breath when I ain't even sweating yet. My legend's written in the stone, yeah. You're crying age, your in defeat is now your only friend. Even your mama's gotta know. First round, you thought you would've knocked me down. Fifth round, bleeding out the side of your mouth. Final round, holding the sound of my name in the crowd. You hit a bus. Oh, 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 oh. You hit a bus. Oh, 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 First round, fifth round.
Photo of you in my mind, on the table under lights. There's no one here but you and I. This neon town is yours and mine. And I said, hey, Carissa. Stayed up through the days and night, laying we watched the world get out. Hey, Carissa. Sunlight, freedom in your eyes. Please don't leave now. Hey, Carissa. Sunlight, freedom in your eyes. Please don't leave now.
Hello, hello. Welcome everyone to the after show. It's a different $400 suit because, you know, well, hey, that was the whole claim in the first place. Yo quiero saber, yo no, ¿quién estaba? Si él quiere hablar en español, podemos un poquito, pero no me gusta porque esto es, toda la gente aquí están hablando en inglés, pero, y Porpes, yo quiero saber por qué no quieres bailar, por qué te no gusta, bueno, all right, so whatever it is, si quieres, puedes decirme qué quieres, pero no sé. I don't know what you want, so let me know. This isn't a Spanish-speaking channel. Is Andring, how are you? I'm speaking English now. Presumably you understand. Oh, you're muted. I don't know if that's my end or... Okay, you are definitely... well, let me see whose end that may be on. Who the hell knows? Watch, I've been speaking Spanish this whole time to myself. Let me just quickly take a look at the. Yeah, your audio. No, that's me. My audio is on. Your audio is. I'm working on it. Is Andrew cool? Oh dear Lord. No, that's not telling me what you're. There we are. Okay, you're up. There you are.
Did you get it? Did you fix it?
Yes.
Yes.
You have no faith. No faith in me whatsoever. Which probably means
when it comes
been
to
around
muting me, you're right. I don't.
Okay.
Yep.
Fair. Fair. I don't like it. I'm a little ticked at you right now, but it is fair.
Well, you're the one that had to open up the show speaking Spanish.
Well, I want to know you
like whoever learns Spanish anymore. That's like gotta be one of the most useless languages in the United States ever.
I know.
Right up there with like German or Italian or.
Hey, if I ever get the chance, I'll probably hit Farsi. But my father practiced law in 6 languages, and it turns out I have the same ability to. I mean, I just pick up languages just like that. By the time I graduated high school, I spoke 4 foreign languages, and I don't remember. I mean, my Japanese is almost gone. My French is mostly gone. I can speak reasonably well in Russian, and I can speak reasonably well in Spanish. That's about it. So.
Vovonstu?
What? I'm sorry. Say that again.
I'm trying here.
Well, somebody was in here speaking Spanish, and I was just trying to. Sinister Porpoise only reads Spanish. That's I happen to be dyslexic in all of those languages, which is just perfect. I don't speak a foreign language, so you've got at least that up on me. My wife decided she wanted to learn a foreign language and got excited about it, and I told her she needed to learn Spanish because it was, probably arguably the most useful second language to have in the United States. And she's like, yeah, but that's just not, exciting or sexy. I want to do something like Italian or Ukrainian or, Slavic. And I'm like, what? And I told her, okay, so learn Mandarin. She lives in the Pacific Northwest. That's probably the second most useful language, at least in the Pacific Northwest, is Mandarin. I was like, so learn Mandarin. And she's like, is that Chinese? I'm like, oh, no. Well, one of the reasons I learned Russian was because I figured it would always be useful, and I wanted to understand Russia better. This was the Cold War. I was in high school, and yada, yada, yada. So I think that's one reason I want to learn either Farsi or Arabic. But yeah, thanks. The Titans being supportive as always.
I actually have an audio program for speaking Spanish, and it's like 300 hours long. It's kind of expensive. I have yet to actually listen to it. I figured when I got it that they could just like read me vocabulary words, how to pronounce them and what they mean, and just describe general grammar, how you would normally structure a sentence, give me some commonly used. And I figured that, just from the sheer amount of repetition that I can listen to while I'm driving down the road, I figured I could memorize most of it, and eventually I'd be able to at least use rudimentary Spanish, but it's probably not going to happen if I don't actually listen to it.
Yeah. Well, the problem is I can't listen to it and not start dissecting it. So my wife and I, when our honeymoon was in Greece, and we decided to learn enough Greek to get around. Russian's easy. Try declinating and conjugating at the same time, and Titan, whatever. He's just okay. He's showing off. Oh yeah, Russian. I learned it in my sleep. But I did. I could read Russian, which is the same alphabet as the Greek alphabet. So I ended up. Sunflower speaks Russian. Okay, очень хорошо. Если ты хочешь, мы можем разговаривать немного в русский язык здесь. Ты можешь. Мы можем разговаривать, если ты хочешь. The number is on the thing. We'll talk about people calling in a second. I like speaking in a foreign language because it's too obvious when I mute him. When I mute him, it's obvious that, or people, the other one is, or they just assume I'm incompetent, which is usually a pretty good, safe assumption. It's not just, it's the cases and then the declination. So you gotta do cases on all the nouns one way, including the proper nouns. Thank you, Russian. And then you gotta, so you declinate one way and you conjugate the verbs another. Oh dear Lord. It's a nightmare. I mean, you learn it, but so Spanish was my first language. actually, which is the other really bizarre thing. Spanish just happened to be my first language. It was a coincidence. I mean, I was born and raised in Boston, but my first language was Spanish. It's a long story. All right, so we've got the call-in number, and we've got the so you can come in. I don't know, I'm a little iffy on people coming in on Skype. I'd like to see it done, so we'll give it a shot. So you can come in on the Skype line if you want video. Otherwise, you can call in. The number is down at the bottom. It's 1-406-4 in time. So give us a call, and we can bring you into the show. Might accidentally boot Xandering. You never know. Worst things have happened. Oh God! And then she's actually using the Cyrillic alphabet. Komnata. It's you know how hard it is. It's been so long since I've read Russian. Komnata Zapolniana Ruskia Botami. Yeah, Jesus. Oh, and Tangelo is here. Yeah, Tangelo. Sorry, I'm not. German isn't gonna happen. My father practiced law in German. And taught me a good number of swears, because apparently if you know swears, you can get along with just about any German guy. But we'll try not to.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever see Spies Like Us? I know I'm dating.
No.
Oh, there's Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase, and they're playing German doctors. And they bump into two German guys, and Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd know no German whatsoever. And they're just pulling this out of their ass. And so they start asking them questions, and like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Like, yeah. So it's just the same thing. That was a better one in Splash. It was that happened in Splash to the when John Candy was playing the Swedish doctor, and yeah. So that was Tangelo. Good to see you. Thank you so much for coming by. It's awfully cool of you. So thank you. So how you doing? Anyway, what's going on with you?
I'm driving. See, at least I can make a claim to the 406 area code, because I actually am in Montana. So you're actually calling right. You're right over there. There's the building you're calling. I'm looking at it.
Yeah. Well, so that's where the number is. I don't know.
It's Montana. Actually, I think it's a Great Falls number. Great Falls, Montana is what it comes up as.
Oh, okay, that's good. Well, okay, so and every time we do this call-in show, Oz calls in, and so far I have been so sleep deprived, actually really on and off for a year for a number of reasons, but especially recently. So it's like, you can call in 2 or 3 times, and I'll see the number, and I'll know it, and I'll recognize it, but I still won't be. It's just like my brain just won't catch. And now I think I've got it when he calls, but he always calls in. He's a different character every time, and then he has buddies get on the phone and says, so I was just like, oh, I thought this might be Oz, but clearly I'm just going crazy. No, it's Oz gaslighting my ass. If anybody here is subscribed to Oz and the Atheist Network group, unsubscribe now. He's you know what? He's just a troll. I was going to say something nice and generous, but every time I call in, he's just like, oh, is this Nick from the Time Network? No, Oz, it's not the Time Network. It's the On Time show. No, Oz, it's not on time. Well, that we know, Nick, but what's the name of the show? Oz thinks he's so clever.
All the funny puns you can have.
Yeah,
we're being punny today.
We're being funny. Well, I am. You're just sort of you're riding the coattails, which is fine.
Of course.
You're riding.
I don't have a sense of humor. I was not issued. Yeah, I'm doing the $4 cool pile vest that I've had for like 20 years now. It's my favorite one. If you hold it up, you can actually see through it now. It's that I've washed it that many times. Yeah. I don't know why. I like wearing my little zip-up vest. I love it. I don't know why. And then I've got one for winter too. It's a Carhartt.
Oh yeah. So this is actually now you and I have actually met. So you were all right. Well, that's good to know. So all right, we're gonna have a serious moment, and I appreciate being notified of that. So Oz is a great guy, and I like Oz very much. He gives me loads of shit. I give him shit back, and so let's not anybody ever mistake that for anything other than genuine affection. What I was just made aware of is that his mother passed away last night, and so I knew she'd been sick, and so I'm very sorry to hear that. So I think, despite the fact it's all good-natured ribbing, and despite the fact I love the guy to death, and I think I may have worked out a way to go to his the Atheist Network Better is what is it? His conference, Atheist Network Group conference in Fort Wayne. So it's and we should also do the link to that because I would like to go to that. I'm planning on going to that. We've talked about it on this show several times. Anyways, condolences I think from everybody here on In Time to Oz. So I will give him, I think, a break from the good-natured ribbing. Thank you, Titan, for that. That was very much worth knowing. So, and Antangelo is dropping something that I think is German, but that last one, I think he just hammered the keyboard and just left it at that. So, 9. He's got a good sense of humor. Oh, dear Lord. So, what was I going to say? And then I'm hoping we can get, what is it? Randolph in here, just because Randolph and I got into this thing. And I think I misjudged who was making what argument. I mean, it's Twitter, so chances of getting it right are always, it's a real shot in the dark. But it was on the, our Rock's Atheist whole thing, which I have really avoided for any number of reasons. And I was just like, you know what? I just felt like getting into it today, and that was probably a bad idea because it's Twitter. Okay, now I have to know who Mr. Park is. Does this vest have us? So it's Mr. Park was the one. So somebody was trying to ask about whether this was Mr. Park's channel. I'm asking in Spanish, and then this whole, I don't. It's after dark. It's wild. It's crazy. Anything could happen. So we'll see. Oh, let me just, actually, I just realized Randolph uses Twitter and not Discord. My life would be significantly easier if everybody just used the social media platforms I prescribed to them. I've noticed it doesn't happen. Yeah, all right. Well, no, okay. We'll see. All right. Well, if anybody had anything they wanted to chat about, or a Terre Haute, $2 super chat from Sinister Porpoise, Terre Haute is better than Fort Wayne. You would know the answer. You would know that. I would not. What's is Andrew?
I've been to Fort Wayne several times.
And I assume
I've never been to Terre Haute, so
no.
Yeah, I've never been there, so or at least not that I'm aware of. I don't recall it. Didn't stick out in my mind, but I've been through Fort Wayne dozens and dozens of times, so I always drive around it. I never go through it. So I don't know what it's like inside, but driving around it, it looks like a nice enough place. It's a couple of truck stops, one on each end I can park at, so if they're having a conference there, at least I'd be able to park someplace, hitchhike in.
Oh, you know what? If you can, I think I finally figured out how to make it there. I could afford the conference, but the tickets to fly down, we were looking at about $600 for a round trip ticket, and I was just saying I can't justify that price for a 2-day conference. I've been trying to figure it out. I think I'm probably going to end up driving, but it's just like that's a 12 or 13-hour drive. So I'm just like, oh dear Lord, it's been a long time since I've been on the road that long. I was never good at it, but I'll get some tips. I'll listen to some. Maybe I'll argue with you. You and I will just, you know what? Maybe we can just call each other and we can argue. That might make things go faster too.
Possibly. Could make you drive off into the ditch in frustration, though.
Yeah.
Try to pull your hair out, forget to hold on to the steering wheel.
Hold on to the. Yeah. All right. So I guess I'm going to go it alone. I think it was what we've settled on.
Get some audiobooks.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of audiobooks I want to listen to too. Oh my God. And for Valentine's Day, no, not for Valentine's Day. Holy smoke, for Mother's Day. And my daughters were all like, Mother's Day is this big thing, and we have to get her lots of gifts, just like a birthday or something like that. I was like, no, it's not quite the same. It's not a birthday. Usually you just get a card. Like, oh, all these things. So, oh God, well, she had wanted the master class thing for a very, very long time. And Neil deGrasse Tyson has a thing in the master class. She's got a PhD. My wife's got a PhD in biochemistry. she loves science. She loves communication. She loves Neil deGrasse Tyson. So finally I got it for her, but it was a 2-for-1 just for Mother's Day. So it's like, oh, great. So Daddy gets it too. So I've had it forever. And yeah, I haven't had a single chance to. I mean, I listened a little bit to Aaron Sorkin's because I'm a writer and I love the writing one, but I haven't had to. So I don't know. Maybe I'll catch up. But I always say that and Spanish, right? I mean, how long have you been trying to learn Spanish, or when did you say you'd finally get to it?
Yeah, exactly. I've had the program now for like 4 years. I have yet to actually. It's so far down my list that it would take me like 5 minutes of scrolling through my app titles to finally find it. I'll have to click the not started, sort by not started, and that might pop up a little closer to the top. There's got to be like 800-900 books in front of it. So yeah, I keep telling myself I'm gonna read it, or I'm gonna listen to it, and I'm gonna start learning Spanish because it's quite useful. But I keep getting distracted by other books. Other things hold my interest. I find it's like I've got a bunch of Neil deGrasse Tysons. I got a bunch on astronomy. So yeah, it was. Anytime I had one on biology, about the biology and the evolution of mitochondria, just because somebody made some random comment trying to push their religious thing about how scientists had proven that, or had traced mitochondrial DNA back to 7 original sources, 7 original strains. And I was like, well, I don't know if that's true because I don't really keep up in the biology world and the DNA in biology. So I was like, the rest of the stuff that you spouted, I'm pretty sure that has been definitively disproven, and I can show you how it was disproven and where you can find all of the information. But I didn't know that they were tracing, mitochondrial lines back, and that they had reached mitochondrial Eve, which turns out they have. And because one of the things I was like, well, wait a minute, there weren't 7 women on the ark, and you inherit your mitochondrial DNA from your mother. In almost all cases, all mammals. So it was like, last time I did any reading or any learning about mitochondrial DNA was in high school. So I was like, maybe I better go brush up a little bit. So I just did a couple of Google searches, and then it got fascinating and interesting, the search for mitochondrial Eve and how they've been tracing it all down, and how you have all these little dead ends where entire mitochondrial lines die out because the mother doesn't have any daughters. Well, her line dies out because it's not passed on anymore.
Because it's not passed on to the son. Exactly.
Do you actually? Yeah. Well, it is passed on to the son. All of her son has her mitochondrial DNA. Right, but her son doesn't pass on any mitochondrial DNA. Yeah. In almost all cases, there are a few rare exceptions where you actually can inherit your father's mitochondrial DNA, and in almost all cases, that's not a good thing to have happen because there's something else seriously wrong usually. So, yeah, it's not generally a good thing. So yeah, I learned way too much. I got a book on it because it sounded interesting, and so I learned way more about mitochondrial DNA than I ever wanted to know. So, I just do that. Shiny things, get distracted.
I know.
Forget about the language.
Oh, forget about I am very much that. Ooh, squirrel. That's Jesus, totally. And I'm getting worse. I'm getting much worse. I'm like, that's not good. I thought I was bad enough as it was, but okay. So just to address something, Porpoise. If you are in the area of anywhere where I am driving through, I will take you to lunch, and I would love to hang out, and you can show me your minivan and pick a place. We'll go to lunch. So, would absolutely love to do that. I've been to lunch with this guy, that guy here, and he will tell you I don't bite very much.
You're over there. That is mirrored on my screen.
Well,
I got an interesting little tidbit for you.
Yeah.
For your rundown. The Sun, UK newspaper, reports that Israel, in that last little minor disagreement that they had with Hamas,
My God.
back in the end of May, beginning of July. The Sun is reporting that Israel actually used for the first time AI drone swarms to target Hamas positions and to harass and obscure them, attack them, swarms of them with no human interaction. They uploaded the target parameters, they sent the drones out, swarms of drones, and those drones identified and then swarmed Hamas targets without a human in the loop. Now, who was it? Arthur Holland of the United Nations Institute for Disarmament Research said that, if confirmed, they are certainly a notch up in the incremental growth of autonomy and machine-to-machine collaboration in warfare. Oh yeah, the drones talk to each other as well.
Well, if they swarm, they'd have to, yeah.
Yeah. So, of course, the IDF has not confirmed any of the specifics of the autonomous attack on targets, but they said, I still haven't been able to find in this link who they are, but they report that Israel has done that, and that's the first use of autonomous machine-to-machine attacks using drones.
That
I thought we were supposed to have the laws of robotics.
Yeah, well, those never work. I mean, if you've read anything about Asimov,
True.
But in fact, that could be more scary
so let's have
than
Skynet instead.
Well, Skynet could happen under the laws of robotics. That was the whole point of the laws of robotics. The laws of robotics was I thought more about language, but than anything else, because there was a conversation. That's one reason I'd try to get Randolph in here, because we were just having a discussion about language. But because what do words mean? To the robots, those words meant something very different. But I'm ambivalent, because it's sort of like, hey, yay, isn't it great that we're learning how to do all these really cool things? But on the downside, it's like, if we learn to do them without using them to kill people more and more efficiently, that would be nice. I'm thinking.
Well, the United States, China, Russia, and Brazil. Who else was doing this? The UK, Russia, United States, China. We're all working on being able to create these autonomous drone swarms to go and attack targets without human intervention. We just upload the intelligence, gets broadcast to them. They use facial recognition programs. They use geographic information. Yeah. And they'll use current aerial surveillance, like you'll have other drones that are surveilling the area, and it'll send information to the drones that are down lower. Yeah, they all talk to each other. And even just manned aircraft surveillance, like high-flying spy drones. Or what is that stupid aircraft that's got the big-ass disc on the back of it the Navy uses? I can't remember what it's called now.
The Osprey? Is it the Osprey, or is it the...
No, the Osprey is the twin-bladed thing that...
that was crashing.
It can take up. That's the
the Osprey. So
I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, it takes off. It's got the big disc on the butt. It's got a big, huge radar picture. So anyway, it uses all of these different inputs from these different these places. And it's all collated, and they get real-time updates, and they can think for themselves. They talk between themselves, and they do a coordinated attack on a target. And I'm thinking, great, because there wasn't enough to worry about already. Now there's another way that the world's going to end. Now I have to start making preparations for the drone attack, the drone apocalypse.
Yeah, well,
bad enough that you got the zombie apocalypse is going to happen. Now we have the drone apocalypse too.
So there you go. So you see, having guns isn't going to help you, and that means I was right on gun control.
No,
how are you going to stop a swarm now? You cannot fight a swarm
yes, you can, with a fully automatic AR-15 with a 100-round drum, and have a second 100-round drum. We need to legalize and remove fully automatic weapons from the NFA.
I totally shouldn't have started that. That was my fault. I'd like to apologize to our live chat, but this was my fault. I don't know what I was thinking.
It is your fault. I don't know why you brought up guns. You shouldn't be bringing up guns for the.
This is a nice casual thing, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, we're gonna remove the AR-14 from the assault ban.
Yeah, exactly.
Ah, shoot, I got away with it. Okay. I hate it when that happens.
Oh, no, you didn't get away with it. It's just we don't need to get sidetracked down the road of firearms. Every time we talk, I know a lot more things about a lot of other things. Well, I know a little bit more about a lot of other things. It's not just the Second Amendment.
Yeah, but
it's just the one that I actually have done enough research to feel confident to really argue with people. Though I argue with people about other things too, but I'm not confident enough that I may actually be right. So I try to make my case, and if they make great cases, I love arguing that way. But the Second Amendment, I actually know a lot about.
You and I are going to have to discuss your level of confidence on issues, but all right. We'll save that one for another day too.
Okay.
So, all right. Well, anyone who wants to call in, it's 1-406-4 in time, 1-406-446-8463. Anybody who wants to call in. And then I was gonna make another Oz joke, but like I said, I think it's best to I'll avoid that for now. But now you see, this is that shiny thing, right? I open up a browser window so I could do something. I don't have any idea what to do. Either I was going to send the link to somebody.
I was just sitting here. I was just sitting here waiting for you to do your job and send me a link or something to get in. So I was viewing other different videos that popped up in my YouTube feed, and one of them was a rundown. And he's a prepper guy. Actually makes a lot of sense about a lot of things too. He's not like a wacko crazy. Well, usually not really a wacko crazy guy, but there's some things I think he might be a little out there on. But
all right, well,
generally, he's fairly. And so yeah, that video popped up, and I was like, "Oh, that's great!" So I clicked on the article, read the article. Skynet, here we come.
I know. Well, we'll have to talk about. And oh god. So Mr. Corpus is calling again. So Mr. Corpus. Yeah, we've had this issue before, so that obviously I can't listen to the people and hear the callers at the same time. So there's the voice thing and it's Sinister Porpoise, and every time she calls in, it just gets it wrong. And so I apologize. Like on top of, I end up getting to misgender her too. You're like Mr. Corpus. Oh dear Lord! But so let's bring Sinister Porpoise in here. And we'll see if this works, because I haven't done this in a while here. So, Sinister, you should be live. How are you?
Hello, I am fine. Who was I this time, Mr. Park?
No. You were Mr. Corpus. There's Sinister Porpoise. But it's that got it right. But and oh my God, I was actually kind of hoping you would call anyway, because I'm as Mowdy would say, made of questions about this drone stuff, and I figured so I'm glad you called. So this is Sinister. Sinister is far more qualified to discuss this than the two of us combined. So, yeah, Sinister.
I'm not qualified to discuss it at all. I just saw the article. I thought it was funny. It's like, oh, and I liked how it says, if confirmed.
That's not. Oh.
And then they say they claim. It's like, okay, who claims, and if what's confirmed? So yeah, it's.
All right, so Sinister. So
all right, let's not overstate my qualifications. Hello.
Well, yeah, but listen. Okay,
Sorry, go ahead.
You have some idea of. I mean, I'm reasonably skilled. I used to build computers for a living, and I can program in Java. C++, Pascal, Basic, a few other things, but I'm still you are better than I at all of those things, and since he can't do any of them, you're better than both of us put together. So it's yep. let's say this way, it's still a reasonably low bar. So yeah. So
I'm a truck driver. What the hell? Do you expect me to know those fancy thingamajiggers that go in the whatchamacallits? I push the button, it works or it don't.
I don't know any of them fancy computer stuff. I'm just glad we don't. If we had Randolph at this point, it would be a propane joke.
If you could see my dash right now, though, there's enough computerized crap in there.
All right, so what were you going to say, Sinister?
Doesn't surprise me. Well, the thing I'm more worried about with this AI thing is that facial recognition technology is far from perfect. And what happens when these drones misidentify something? This technology is not perfected, and as cool as it may be, and I'm thinking, awesome, we have drones killing people on their own now. I don't think they've really worked out all the bugs with AI facial recognition technology, because even, all right, I'm going back to college, and one of the things that they'll do is use a proctoring service, and some of these proctoring services use facial recognition technology somehow to determine if people are more likely to be cheating. One of the major problems with this particular service is that it tends to flag people with darker skin as cheating more often when they're not.
Cute.
So we've got racist issues, but we've also got, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just like the cute. Oh, good. Oh, joy. Yeah, anyways, please continue.
Also, what happens if it misidentifies the wrong area? Are there human pilots going to override these things, or?
Well, out of curiosity, so okay, so they're a swarm. So the other thing that I was thinking of, so are they sharing data, and are they sort of doing some sort of like neural architecture to compute like a pattern recognition on a face or something like that? So there's multiple ones from multiple angles that are each processing small pieces of the data and trying to composite a probability of whether or not they've got the right target, or is I'm curious about that. So I guess I have some questions about the technical issues, but yeah, I mean, one can foresee this going terribly wrong. The counter on that side is, well, okay, let's say, this is about to, okay, we're about to get demonetized. Let's say it 1 in 100 times it goes and kills a kid, goes out and just swarms a kid and kills an innocent child. Okay, it sounds terrible, but the analysis that they're going to make is they're going to say, okay, well, how often do other measures that we currently use, carpet bombing, whatever else we're talking about, how often does that result in killing a child or an innocent civilian? And if this is less likely, then whether or not it's more or less palatable to us, or whether or not we find it terrifying, they're going to say, hey, well, this is still a better means of going around engaging in some form of targeted killing. So it's gonna do it. It's gonna get the wrong one. It's just a question of how often does it do it?
This is an issue that I've seen on.
How do you hold a machine accountable?
How do you hold a machine?
How do you hold a machine accountable when it gets something wrong?
Yes, well, this is a big. All of these are big issues when with something I'm a little bit more friendly with, which is self-driving trucks. All of these same things have been brought up. That's the exact same argument. People keep coming up and it's like, well, the computer's going to have a glitch. It's going to plow into a school bus, and it's going to kill all these kids. And it's like, yeah, but real drivers right now do that. Those accidents happen as we speak. And yet, the computers are far more effective at making corrections on the road. They've proven that than human beings are. Because they can know exactly how fast things are in front of them. They know the exact distances away from things. It knows exactly how much brake pressure can be applied. All of these things the computer can calculate that a human just can't in the moment. And that's another thing. People brought up the same thing. So what happens if your self-driving truck does plow into that school bus full of children? Who do we sue? Who do we hold liable for that? Is it the manufacturer of the software that's running the truck? Is it the trucking company that's utilizing the truck on this software? I mean, where does this responsibility actually ultimately lie when it screws up and people lose their life? So yeah, all of those things have been addressed just in something as not quite so frightening as self-driving trucks.
Well, and just
didn't we have a court case?
Please, Senator.
Didn't we have a court case that settled that recently in the case of Tesla, because they've been working on their autopilot technology for a while, and one of their cars hit a pedestrian? Or is that still working its way through the courts?
I think it's still working its way through the courts. I don't remember anything recent on it, but the car had hit someone, and then I think it hadn't recognized there was a white truck and a white car near it, and it mistook the truck it mistook. Oh no, I think it mistook the car for Sky. I forget, but it made an error and it slammed into him. But the other interesting one too is airplanes. So right now we can make air travel much safer if everything's done by autopilot. Absolutely everything. And by the way, most of it is done by autopilot in one way or another, because they're not actually piloting the thing, except really usually during takeoff and landing. But if you have autopilot to takeoff and landing, you're going to reduce the number of crashes. You're going to reduce the number of mistakes, and the autopilot can respond much faster than a human being can. But universally, people reject this and they're like, nope, we want a pilot, because the pilot has skin in the game. The computer doesn't. And again, it's actually accountability, right? The pilot is going to face some accountability if he screws up. If for no other reason, then he's on the plane too, so he suffers the consequences of his own mistakes. The computer program doesn't care one way or another. But I found that really interesting for our bias. But before we continue, and I want to get Porpoises in on this, I'm going to check out a message because I got a couple incoming. But I do want to just let everyone know, there, for some reason, there's huge lag on the call-in, so Porpoise is actually about 4 or 5 seconds behind us when she hears it, and so it's gonna make discussion just a touch harder. But I think everyone's already picked up on that, but I want to let you guys know, I think it's because it's coming in on Skype. The call is a phone call, goes to Skype, goes to NDI, and then goes to the show. So I'll work on finding ways to improve that. But until then, Porpoise is time traveling by like 5 seconds. So, but anyways, Porpoise, please continue.
Anyway.
1,000.
Oh, Jesus, you
so,
son of a...
I guess Tesla...
I just want to know.
Go ahead.
No, he was making fun of. He was just doing the time to see how long it actually took, not realizing that I already did it in my head. You son of a, and I got it right, by the way. Anyways, please continue, Porpoise. Please ignore the black screen that's just being one heck of a pain.
I dropped my phone. Give me a minute.
Oh yeah, so he can't even he can't hold a phone, let alone a conversation. Please continue, Porpoise.
Very true.
I guess Tesla is being sued. I guess that would settle that part. I guess there was something similar with Boeing software for, I forget what it was, for the 737, but it was a software engineering problem. But yeah, there actually has been a movement to ban the use of AI in warfare, but the US, Russia, and China won't sign on to it.
Yep.
Every other nation in the world wants to sign on to this treaty, but these big three don't.
Yeah, the Human Rights Watch is running a campaign called Stop Killer Robots that's at the bottom of this article. There is serious doubts that fully autonomous weapons would be capable of meeting international humanitarian law standards, they say.
Well, of course they wouldn't. They're not human. They might be more objective. But the problem with this is that, as we've discovered through Google, and I wish I could remember the name of the doctor who was on that Nova special, and interestingly enough, I've decided to go back to college and focus on computer science. My major is going to be machine learning, or computer science with a machine learning focus, assuming I can get the math done. So what we have is that the programmers programmed their own biases into it. So you said this was Israeli, right?
Correct.
Yes.
So oddly enough, I'm thinking they're probably going to be biased against Palestinians and target things that may not really be deserved to be targeted, even though the programming is doing what it's supposed to do. I mean, AI is only as unbiased as the people who program it. Remember, don't fear the machine that passes the Turing test. Fear the machine that deliberately fails it.
Deliberately, yeah, I know, that's a great. I think I first heard that from you, actually. I think that's a spectacular. Yeah. Oh dear Lord. All right. Well, So I also have something else I would like to discuss. It looks like this actually broke not that long ago, but we've got it. But so I did want to. I mean, we're talking an interesting subject, and I don't want to just dump on it, but yeah, we've got something else that I think is worth discussing here. So does anyone have any final thoughts on the drones and the AI? It'll give me an extra minute or two to collate this.
Oh, it was just something that popped up right before. I was not particularly looking great for the future of the world.
All right.
Well, I'm sure we'll work out the bugs, but we really should have the laws of robotics programmed into these things before we try this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously those are fallible, which was sort of the point of Asimov, but it's still better than nothing. But my concern is, well, look, we're always finding better ways to kill each other, which is really one of the disappointing things about our species. And I can only imagine what the generation that had to live through the creation of the first atomic weapon. I mean, imagine the end of World War II, and you're thrilled. The war is over. Your side won. At least if you're an American, your side won. But we now have these weapons, and we're the only ones that have them. But if you have half a brain, you know that's not going to be true forever. And it turns out it's not going to be true for as long as certainly most Americans would have liked. And this is the most terrifying weapon in human history. And for the first time, genuinely the capacity to wipe out all life on this planet, at least all human life. So now we're dealing with robots that'll be able to think for themselves and have only one goal, which is to kill people. And that's not because it's their goal. They didn't. I think Porpoise is right about that, which is that's our goal, and we taught it to the robots. But now what? And
they won't be.
Yeah, what? Please.
They won't be. I'm only going to take issue with you using the term thinking for themselves, but I think you know why.
You know, and that's fair. So I appreciate you bringing that up. So, it's. I mean, realistically speaking, this is also why I brought up the airplanes with the autonomous pilots. You know, I'm curious to know how much of this is just, again, feeling like I trust a human being more because I know they've got skin in the game and I know what, you know, I have some idea of what's going through their head. By one measure, you know exactly what's going through a computer program's quote head, but by another measure, it's sort of like, okay, yeah, but they're not, you know, they don't have motivations in the same way that I understand. They don't. So it's there's going to be an inherent distrust to it. I figured I'd pause to give.
Well, anyone who knows technology,
please.
Anyone who knows technology, like there are certain things I won't have in my house. Like people think the Alexa is a great thing. I'm like, my cell phone already gets enough voice data I don't want. Why do I want Amazon getting more data from me? So I'm not going to have an Alexa or Google Home in my house. So because I know what technology can do, I think it's amazing, but I also don't trust a lot of it.
Well, and there was that the father who found out that his daughter was pregnant through Target, because Target changed the ads profile and started getting her all the things that a pregnant person would want, because it identified through her change in purchases that she was almost certainly, she was very likely pregnant, so it changed the coupons she was getting, and the father got ticked off and said, you know, I forget where this story came from, but what I'm going to do now is, so first of all, Sinister, would you like a video link, and you can come on in. We'll put a window up for you, and you can join us on the stream. Is that that'll make things easier? All right. I'll send it to you on the Discord. So
sure. I'm not sure this Bluetooth. I'm not sure this Bluetooth connection through the cell phone is working well.
Whatever. Even if you do no camera and just audio, it's going to have significantly less lag than you got now. So I'll send you a link. It'll take about a minute to comprise it because I actually have to put it together. So, but it'll send you a DM in the Discord in just a sec. And I don't necessarily. I got to tell you. I'm sorry, what?
Send it to Titan. He loves DMs.
He loves. I can send it to Titan. Well, and actually, I don't actually have your DMs easily accessible right here anyway, so I can send it to Titan. So Titan, you'll be getting a link momentarily so that she can come in, and then while we do that, and since she's still on the line too, she can hear this because it is going to take me a minute to compose it. So we just have this. So I guess the Dems have released notes taken by then acting Deputy Attorney General regarding a call with President Trump and former acting Attorney General Rosen in his attempt to pressure the two most senior officials at the Department of Justice to overturn the 2002 election, which they felt would be jeopardizing their jobs and illegal to allow him to do. Quote, these handwritten notes show that President Trump directly instructed our nation's top law enforcement agency to take steps to overturn a free and fair election in the final days of his presidency. The committee has begun scheduling interviews with key witnesses to investigate the full extent of the former president's corruption, and I will exercise every tool at my disposal to ensure all witness testimony is secured without delay. The accusation is that he explicitly instructed them to declare the election corrupt and have it overturned, which at the time there was no evidence, and it appears they refused. He said, if you do that, and then one of them suggested that it was illegal and that he would not do it. And he said, listen, if you just make the declaration, I will take care of the rest. That's an extraordinarily serious charge, and in my view would certainly exceed any of the charges that were levied even against Nixon in terms of instructing a cover-up. So I don't know what you guys think, but if you guys want to talk about it for a minute, and I will get Porpoise the link.
I'm almost not even shocked anymore at the stuff that Trump decided he thought he could just do. I knew there was a reason I disliked him.
Well,
thankfully they didn't do it.
No, thankfully they didn't. And that was one of Obama's statements shortly after Trump won, was I guess we're going to see just how strong our institutions are. I think he had a better idea we were going to be facing this kind of thing. I'm really glad they didn't do it. But on the flip side, I got to tell you, at this point, I'm kind of pessimistic. Like, how much more needs to come out before... and it's a long process, and it's supposed to be a long process, him going to jail or getting in trouble. But, I mean, how many supporters does he still have? He's supposed to be back in office in September, according to them. I know it was August. It's been pushed back to but they're credibly talking about him running again. Is this going to have any impact?
No, I doubt it among the supporters. I think the rest of the people, or the people in the middle who are like, probably are going to go, I don't think so. I didn't vote for him either time, so.
Sinister, any thoughts?
On Trump?
Well,
I have plenty of thoughts on Trump, none of which should be repeated in my company.
Yeah. Well, listen, listen. Given his history, given what he's done, given that he's, so I've sent Titan the link for Porpoise. Given, I mean, I had on my personal blog, I finally decided that, okay, he had to have an honorific because he was president. He had to have an honorific. But we had any number of choices, and I think we had 5 different choices, and the one that my followers settled on was Pussy Grabber in Chief. And I mean, that alone, that any fucking human being could say what he did. I don't care what his excuses were. He was full of shit. He has no empathy. He doesn't care about anybody else but himself. And the fact that he could even say, you know, I mean, give me a break. Give me a break. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they knew he was narcissistic going into the 2016 election. I mean, that wasn't news to anyone. everybody knew that he was, self-centered narcissist.
Well, yeah.
It's like when you had that report from the Russians. It's like there was no surprises there.
No, there really.
Although my first thought was.
Yeah, please, you were saying?
Sorry, my first thought was, do I want to believe this because of my confirmation bias?
I had that too.
All right.
And okay, I don't know if I just figured out because I can do the thing. So let me double check that. And ends in 00. So that is correct. So actually, I got your. So I can DM you there. So I sent you the link, Sinister. So you're all good. Anyone else wants to call in? We can actually handle several calls at a time if we want to. So it's 4:06 in time. Oh, and Sinister is in, but and Sinister, if you could, I think you're either playing us in the background or there's definitely something back there. But let me move here and have Maudi's shield there, so we will have to get one for. Ow! Are you guys hearing that? I can't be the only one. Ow! That hurts. Oh, thank you, Sinister. I think Sinister got that under control. Let me let's see.
The drone swarmed her.
The drones got her. Okay, so let's see. She's going to be on 3. So, or not. I've been known to have a hard time counting to 3. No, she Actually, I think she killed the connection, so I think she's probably going to kill that until she can. All right. Yeah, I cried. I cried on the day he was elected. I really did. I was I didn't know how to tell my wife. I didn't know how to tell people I cared about. Of course, everybody I knew was going to know anyway. But it was. I didn't think I lived in a country that could elect a guy like that. And by the way, I'll point out, I know a lot of conservatives, and I know a lot of conservatives who live in the South and detest liberal elites like myself and the ivory towers and all that other stuff. And they say that that's because we don't have any horse sense and we don't, we're too busy stuck in the tower and we can get snowed by anybody and everybody and we can't. I'm sitting there going, and you guys didn't see Trump coming? You guys didn't see what I saw when you looked at, because I'll tell you what I saw. But, all right, Porpoise, welcome. Good to see you. I'm going to get you a real name there. And I know, we've talked about this before, which is that one of the reasons that he was elected, one of the reasons that conservatives pushed for him so hard was they're not that stupid. Plenty of them knew who and what he was, but they also knew he pissed off the left, and that was his biggest qualification. That was the one they wanted. That was just like, you know what, if you guys think you can social engineer this country, if you guys think you can, make us do all these liberal things, it was a backlash against that. I know that, but that was still very, very hard on me. I don't know. What do you guys think? Oh, and she's
I
muted.
laughed.
So I think she's muted.
I'm
no,
sure
she's not muted.
It's not everybody.
It's not actually. It's not on my side. It looks like her audio. We're just not getting an audio signal from her.
Oh, hold on. I muted myself.
You see, you blamed me. What the? Even she admits that wasn't my fault.
Yeah, but 99% of the time it actually is your fault.
Okay, it's a safe assumption. All right, fine.
We don't have Randolph or Neil in chat, so the blame can't go to the nearest Canadian.
That's true. We can't do. Yeah, but then you know where it goes. The second one is the nearest person in a hat. I ain't making that up. That was. So we got
that
two
would
hats.
be this guy over here.
Yeah, I agree. He's closer. He was in first too, so I think it's going to be Xandering. All right. So, anyways, Xandering, you were saying?
I was. If I was, I've forgotten what I was saying. I got distracted by the totally awesome other hat.
Well, we were talking. Oh, I'm going to disconnect. I think I'm still actually connected to Sinister, so I'm going to drop the line there and band caller. No, yeah. I just dropped it.
Oh, I thought I hung up.
Well, you're disconnected now. I didn't realize I have a ban button too, so I can ban callers. That's good to know. So I know you each have to. So you said you laughed. Yeah, you said you laughed when he was elected. You laughed.
Oh yes, I did. I laughed because the whole thing was a shit show, and I finally got to the point where everything came out and it was like, oh, Trump's the president. And I lost it. I laughed. It's like I can't believe this.
I don't think laugh. Sorry, go ahead.
No, please. I was going to ask you what was your how'd you react when he was elected?
Yeah, I was kind of scared and angry because how could we elect a fascist? At least our traditions held, and the government did not back him up on a lot of stuff. But if he did, it's like that could have been a lot scarier.
They backed him up more than I expected, and you had Mitch McConnell, who absolutely made the problem worse and would have made it worse if he could have. So what if you hadn't had Nancy Pelosi? What if you hadn't had any number of other people who are at least offering some pushback? But, yeah. Oh, dear Lord. I'm not a fan of, and I hate it when Republicans decide they don't like what's going on, so they bail. And you can't meet quorum, and the government can't do its business. And so, guys, you know what? Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Stick and do your jobs. On the flip side, then of course when the Democrats do it, I don't want to have that hypocrisy. But then I'm sitting there going like, well, what option did they have left, and all? So I don't know. No, you're not banned. So we don't. It's rare we ban people. I think it's pretty clear how it went. Anyways, I'm sorry. As Xander, I keep trying to ban, but Titan unbans him. It's worth it for
I got an insider.
Yeah, it's worth it for. It's worth it to keep Titan around, but barely. Someone said I threw up when I'm sorry. What?
The good news is, as Titan said, there was 4 years of harmless buffoonery. He was half right. We got 4 years of harmful buffoonery.
Yeah, we got to. Oh, dear Lord, I know. Oh, dear Lord.
Yeah, that's kind of what I expected too. Was 4 years of just essentially glorified reality TV show. Turns out he actually did some pretty obnoxious things. Tried to do some even more obnoxious things.
Well, and then now please.
Not everything he did was bad, though. There were a couple things he did that I agree with. But then again, the overall effect was just harmful, so...
Well, we've got Amy here. So, Amy, if you hit me up on the Discord, I can get you a link if you want to join us. And Neil is here. And Neil, if you would like to join us and say hi, let me know. I can send you a link. It's good to see you all. Anyone can also call. The number is 406 4 in time. That's 406-4468 463. So let us know. You guys can hit me up again on the Discord. I can send you guys a link, or you can call. The recent ruling where they basically, where the Supreme Court said, okay, you could not hit him up on what was it? It was
emoluments.
Well, yeah, I think it may have been on emolument. Yeah, because let's see, what was it? Oh, dear Lord, now I'm forgetting. I'm sorry. There was something to the effect of they couldn't get him on the violation. Okay, so no, he received protection, of course, from. Oh, dear Lord, now I really can't remember. They were saying he was immune to prosecution for something because he had done it while president, meaning that he couldn't be prosecuted, but only while president. And they basically said, no, it extended. He received immunity from some prosecution. I've forgotten what it was. Actually, yeah, I think it was emoluments, but I've forgotten what was the legal argument they used. But it was absolutely. I think it was you had to get him while he was in office, which of course you couldn't do because he was protected. And we're like, okay, but now that he's out of office, emoluments no longer applies. It's like, yeah, but it was a crime while he was in. I mean, that's the whole point of emoluments. But yeah, I'm gonna have to. I don't entirely remember it.
It was clearly he stacked the court to get that.
Yeah, he successfully stacked the court, and again, so between the court, Mitch McConnell, I wrote when he first started running. I wrote a piece that outlined a credible means for which he could actually overthrow the U.S. government and become a dictator. And I had forgotten I had written it, and somebody linked it to me, and I was like, "Oh shit, I wrote this!" And I couldn't believe how much I got, how much I got right. It included stacking the court. It included undermining, obviously, the Fifth Estate. It included much more emphasis on gerrymandering, which the states have been doing, but as of yet, other than an attempt by Bush at a nationwide plan to gerrymander. But that was Karl Rove's plan. Other than that, the Republicans haven't no on a national level. Nobody's really tried to gerrymander. I figured they'd probably go for that, and if he got that, then he stacks the court, then he stacks Congress, and it's game over because he declares a national emergency and he stays in office forever. And it's amazing how close we came to that.
Yeah, I thought Perot would be closer to being Caesar.
Now, just think, if he'd have succeeded in actually pulling that off and had done that, wouldn't you be happy that we all, well, no. Probably not, because most of those right-wing people, far right-wing people actually supported him. But as I was going to say, wouldn't you be happy that we actually had our AR-15s and we could then overthrow him?
Oh, Jesus.
The government has more money and better equipment than you do.
Yes, they do have more money.
And probably killer drones.
Technically, they can steal more. They can steal more money than we can earn. I mean, the government doesn't earn its own money; it takes it through taxation.
Or it can print it, but yeah.
And yeah, it can print it, or it can also borrow it, I guess.
If you've read Adam Smith, you know that his whole thing is that certain things should be done by the government simply because everyone benefits. And a lot of the modern capitalists haven't really read that part.
Oh, no, there's definitely a role for federal government. And there are certain things they absolutely should be doing and states shouldn't be.
So what I'm going to do, we actually, let's see. No, we don't have a caller, but we do have Joe was looking to get a link. So Joe, it's actually, unfortunately, I'm going to, actually, no, you know what? I can send you a link through Skype. I'll send it through Skype because I know that's your preferred means. So Joe, I'm sending you a link through Skype, and you can join us. I think somebody else requested a link, so I will do that in a second. But anyways, so you were saying, well, yeah. So I was answering once again because he's always got to bring up the guns, right? Because he's a gun nut, and he just has to keep pointing out.
You did it first.
Oh, and then he's a two-point nut too, right? The Porpoise is right. I didn't mention it at all. I mean, if you're talking, like what? Because I mentioned it yesterday or a couple days ago or maybe like 20 minutes ago, but it's not first in this line.
Yeah, like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's not first in this line of discussion.
You brought it up in this show.
Oh yeah. Oh. Wow. Really.
You did. You brought it up first in the show. He who brings it up first is then guilty of any discussion following thereafter.
Oh, dear Lord.
I mean, I kind of wish I had a better place to store it.
Unfortunately, some of that ultra-conservative, far right-wing, radical element that's really gung-ho for guns and going to overthrow the government and all that crap. Unfortunately, most of those types actually supported Trump, so probably wouldn't have done us a whole hell of a lot of good.
Oh, so yeah, we definitely, guns in their hands is a great idea. Joe, how are you?
All right. I just hope we're not going down the line of, taxation and stuff thing. I think I'm hoping
I just wanted...
was joking.
All right. I just wanted to point
they
out
tax the
that
people to gain revenue, and it's a legitimate role of government.
my roommate does this all the time, and it's kind of irritating. But she's like, "The leftists are gun grabbers." I'm like, "No, you mean liberals, because you don't know what leftists are."
Well, and liberals
honestly,
aren't gun grabbers either.
a lot of the people I see around here who own guns, it's like,
yeah.
I mean,
Please, Joe.
the thing is, like, as I've pointed out to people, like the assault gun ban didn't take a gun out of anyone's hands who had one. The assault weapons ban banned the manufacture and sale for civilian use, and that's generally how you have to do it because, well, thanks to rulings that only started in the 20th century of the idea that owning a gun is an individual right. With that interpretation, it's difficult, if not impossible, to legally take a gun away unless there's some extenuating circumstance. Back in the late 1700s and 1800s, the interpretation was different, but we're past that now. So it's
well, gun control has a racist history to begin with, and the first person to pass gun control laws was Ronald Reagan.
Well, no, that's not the very first gun control. There was gun control, back in the when the Chicago mobs were wiping people out. But
1921, I believe, is when the National Firearms Act was actually passed. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, I didn't know the exact year, but certainly you are correct, Porpoise, that Ronald Reagan did in fact pass gun control legislation, which was actually supported by the NRA because they wanted to keep guns out of the hands of black people.
The Black
Panthers specifically.
Driven by fear of the Black Panthers.
Well, let's be really true. Fear of black people. That's what it really was. The Black Panthers was kind of like a proxy for the rest of us, but and that's like I said. That's why I said last time we were on together. It's the reason why I don't really care about the Second Amendment, because as a matter of practice, I don't really have the same freedom to own a gun that, say, you do. On paper, yeah, but not in practice. So, but it's back to what Nick was talking about, though. The whole issue of Trump, and as this information is coming out, we're finding out it was actually worse than we originally thought, which is kind of scary because I already thought it was pretty damn bad.
So you mean the telling the DOJ to declare what was it? Okay, yeah, understand. The DOJ can't and won't snap its fingers to change the outcome of the election. It doesn't work that way. That's what he actually had to tell President Trump, who was demanding that they essentially overturn the results of a legitimate U.S. election without any evidence.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I said... Sorry, go ahead, Porpoise.
He's still angry at Pence, and all Pence did was uphold the Constitution.
Oh, yeah. Well, what I had said early in Trump's term, I was arguing with some right-winger, and they were like, oh, well, it's so great because he's a businessman. I'm like, that doesn't make me feel better, because first off, lots of businesses are run terribly. He's been bankrupt, 5-6 times now. But on top of that, I knew that there would be an issue, even if he didn't try to actually take over the government in the way that he obviously did. Just the fact that, as someone who owns a business myself, I can solicit my employees for opinions, but at the end of the day, it's my company, and I can legally do whatever I want. Now, if a smart business owner listens to their employees and learns from them, but Trump's not terribly smart, and he's used to getting his own way. He just does what he wants and tells people to do it, and they do it for whatever their motivations. That's when you're the president, you don't get to do that because, we have a constitution and separation of powers and all that. The president is not a dictator. or it's not supposed to be anyway. So
well, you work for the people of the U.S.
It's not the same. It's not the same skill set.
I mean, the possible closest would be if you're the CEO, not the owner, but the CEO of a publicly held company, or even a privately held company, but a company that's held by other people, and you are beholden to the stockholders. That's the closest thing, and even that's not there yet.
Right, exactly. So I'm not surprised, only in that, like I said, that it's the fact that it was closer, even closer than we really thought, and I'm just glad that even his toadies were not as crepulent as him. Because, I mean, that's what he kept trying to do. If you think about it, when Jeff Sessions did almost everything Trump wanted, and then still got fired for the one thing he wouldn't do, which was, because Trump was mad that he recused himself, which was the correct thing for Sessions to do. And he not only got rid of Sessions, but he ridiculed him and tore him down in publicly, and this is how he rewards loyalty. Which is why I'm always kind of flummoxed when I see people continue to try to flock to his banner and try to show how loyal they are. It's like, he doesn't give a shit about you. He's going to turn on you at the instant that you are no longer useful to him.
If I see one more truck with a Trump flag on the back.
So, don't commit property damage. It's illegal. Just yell at him. Yeah, when he was first elected, I thought we were going to have, kind of like what Titan said, I thought we were going to have pretty much a circus show, but more or less harmless, that he wouldn't really be able to get anything done. And the more things that started happening, some of them were good. There were some decent things that came out of there. But then you look at all of the other crap that came packaged with, and I'm not convinced in any way that it was a net positive. I'm pretty sure it's a net negative. And I was more or less ambivalent about him being elected when it all started. And boy, my mind has been changed. And I even as much as I disliked Hillary, I don't think that we would have had some of the problems that we're having today had she been elected instead of Trump.
So you're telling me I can't replace like the Trump flag and the Confederate flag with the Rainbow Pride flag and the trans flag?
On private property, no.
Yeah, not on private property. If it's on their truck, don't. Yeah, we don't want you to go get a ticket or get hurt because somebody gets offended. Just yell at them.
I'm not sure that's necessarily a great idea either. But this reminds me, though, too, which was the revelation that happened, I think it was about a month and a half ago, where Pence said that he didn't want to get, or he didn't say this, but this was the revelation, was that Pence had said he would not get into the limousine with the Secret Service on the 6th because he was not convinced that there wasn't a coup, and he was afraid that a Secret Service official may shoot and kill him if he gets into the limousine with the guy. That's how much trust had eroded for this, and that tells you something about Pence too, which is he was still willing to work for Trump after that.
Well, having lived in Indiana, Pence was a terrible governor. Let's not forget that. And because of his ineptness, Indiana does have some LGBT protections now, because he tried to pass religious freedom restoration law that backfired on him. But there's one thing I have a question about the whole January 6th thing, or shortly thereafter, and it's why after that did the military feel the need to specify they will obey lawful orders?
They were letting,
because usually they omit that word.
Notice. Well, they were putting him on notice that if he said, because they expected the commander-in-chief was going to issue illegal orders, and they were letting him know that they were not going to follow them.
Well, and didn't they also at the time say that they were actually taking orders from the office of the vice president? I think they said that at one point, which suggested that they were no longer taking any orders from him whatsoever, which is essentially means, I mean, the vice president is not, the vice president has two powers. That's it. Two. He is a citizen like you and I, with the exception of two things. First, as the title of president of the Senate, he can vote in the case of a tie. That's the only time he can vote. He can vote in the case of the tie. And the second power he's got that nobody else can do is he can assume the presidency if the president is by some means removed, whether it's because he's been killed, the 25th has been invoked, whatever reason. Those are his two powers. That's all he can do. And he's not even technically, he's got no right to be in the White House, no right. That's been sort of assumed. I mean, of course, he's got a right. So, they let him in and he'll speak for the president. He'll say this is what the president wants because they've always been on kind of the same team. And that's kind of the idea. But none of that's actually enshrined in the Constitution. And he was, in fact, kicked out of the White House, if I understand. Or at least his, what was it? His chief of staff was at a minimum. If they're listening to him, that means they don't recognize the authority of the president anymore because he's actually not allowed to talk to the military technically unless the president isn't around. Am I missing something?
There are a few exceptions. Like anytime the president's incapacitated, like for anything, I mean, it doesn't have to be like permanent incapacitation either. But the president's indisposed, unavailable. There are some exceptions in there, but they're limited. But yeah, basically, I mean, that basically tells me that the military came to the conclusion that the commander in chief was incapacitated in some way. And I guess that's and they were basically trying to, like I said, letting him and his staff and everybody else know that. And I think, and one, it was a shot across Trump's bow, but it also was a note to the citizenry that don't worry. If you're worried that the military is going to, join him in this attempted coup, we're not in with him. And that was another way for them to let us know. Because if you remember, shortly, after the election and before January 6th, Trump got rid of a bunch of the civilian team at the DOJ and put in toadies. The thing is that those toadies actually don't have any authority to order the military to do anything. So that was, but there was a lot of people nervous about it. That's why they were there, because certainly if you had people who weren't toadies there, and normally the chain of command is the president gives his orders to his people at the DOJ, so the civilians, chairman, either the chairman of the Joint Chiefs or the that's a military person, but the Secretary of Defense, and then that goes down the chain, eventually getting to military people. But Trump put in people that basically weren't going to say no to him, so they could pass along the president's orders, and they're basically saying, don't worry, everybody, we're because I know there was a lot of people petrified that the military was going to join in and just let him be, emperor. So.
Quick question. You said the DOJ, which he also did, but did you mean the DOD?
Yes, I did mean the DOD. Thank you. You are correct.
I was going to say, the Department of Justice has nothing to do with the military at all. They don't have any authority over the military.
Yeah, well, he did it with the Department of Justice too.
Yes, he did, and they fought him and managed to slow him down dramatically there. In fact, it was and at the NSA, if I recall, at the NSA he tried to get somebody who's completely unqualified, who was barely a competent attorney, who was it Newsom, who really, but had authored a paper basically just designed to help Trump get away with one of the things that he was trying to pull. And it's like, we're going to put you in as the Attorney General for the NSA, and the NSA just managed to slow it down dramatically with institutional resistance to the thing. But I think he finally got in.
And if you think about how bad of a president this makes Trump, because I don't think there's ever been a time, maybe Nixon when he was having his dissociative events. But other than that, I don't think there's been ever a time that large sections of the government actually had to actively resist the president because the president was, wildly exceeding his authority and trying to subvert, the Constitution and the nation. I guess I know there was some talk about Nixon, like he would be up late at night and was obviously not in his right mind and was trying to order all sorts of wacky stuff. And they basically said, just don't pay attention to the president. Got him to go back to bed. Don't pay attention. Don't pay attention to him.
Yes, sir. I am
He
not.
wanted to nuke he wanted to nuke somebody, and they're like, yeah, he's.
Oh, really?
Go ahead.
Well, who doesn't want to nuke someone?
Well,
At least once in your life.
Yeah. You know, if I had a handheld nuclear device, I might demonetize my own channel by having this conversation. Given up on being monetized a very long time ago. Anyways.
oh, yeah,
In Fallout 76. Who doesn't want to nuke someone in Fallout?
Yeah, in April 1969, a drunk Nixon wanted to nuke North Korea, and they basically were like, no, that's not happening. And he also proposed it on Vietnam in '72.
You want to nuke? Learn something new every day.
I'm a little more circumspect about this because Nixon was not a great president. Maybe he was better than Carter. Both were better than Trump, which is not a high bar to clear. But we have a tendency to just attribute things that aren't necessarily true to people we don't like. Like, there are certain people who, even though I don't like them, I'm not as quick to call them stupid because I just don't like what they're saying. There is one person I'll make an exception for that too.
Operation Giant Lance. No, this is documented.
Oh, I'm not saying he's a good president.
Nixon authorized a squadron of 18 B-52 bombers to patrol the Great Crab and escalate the nuclear threat posed. Basically, he was. This is not. I mean, I know what you're saying. There's a lot of like bullshit out on the internet, but these two are not among them.
I'm just saying we should be a little more quick, or a little less quick to say someone's demented, because all throughout Trump's presidency, it's like he has dementia, and now that Biden's in, they're doing the same thing, and it's like the men are in their 70s, so yeah, maybe they are showing some cognitive decline. But I don't think either Biden or Trump showed signs of dementia.
I didn't say either of them did. I was talking about Nixon.
I'm just saying this is a good example, and Nixon had his own problems.
Yeah, Nixon had. Yeah. Please, I'm sorry. I was just.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so let me take a minute. Anyone who wants to call in? The stream is not full. We can certainly take a call. It's let's see, 406-446-8463. That's 406-4 in time. And so anyone who wants to call in will. I wouldn't want it to get much bigger than this, but I'm certainly willing to if one other person wants to call in and say hi and give their opinions on this. That would be, I think the other thing that we're going to do is I think we're going to start, if we run out of room, we're going to start a sacrificial ritual, and whoever is the most reasonable person on the stream is just gone. So that's...
Sorry, it's Henry.
Oh, that'll never
Bye,
be
guys. I'll say goodbye, everyone. It was nice being on the stream. See ya.
But... real quick, just the whole thing about, Trump being a business person. What's funny, I've always found it kind of hilarious when I've heard people say there's like the government in general should be run like a business. And like, first off, the two entirely different purposes. The goal of a business is to make profit, and the goal of the government is to provide services not at a profit. And secondly, if, part of my job is a service related industry, and I go in lots of different companies in lots of different industries, and a large swath of companies are really, really badly run. So the idea that, well, businesses get it right in a way the government doesn't, oh my God, you have no idea. There's I would find that more than half of businesses are incompetently run.
Well, and
more
keep
than
in
half
mind,
of businesses that start up go out of business in 5 years. So.
Right, and I'm talking. That's true, and I'm actually it's even worse than I'm saying, because I'm only talking about the businesses that actually persist. the businesses that actually persist are actually really, really badly run. That's right. Yeah. So half of them never make it, and of those that make it, at least half of them are crap. So, you
Well, and
um,
I mean,
Well,
the reality is Trump has lost half the businesses he ever did to bankruptcy. The reality is the money, any
only
money
half.
he seems to, oh, he's the number of businesses he's had that have gone bankrupt is cray cray. And the other thing is he loves to leverage debt. That's what he does, and that can work. And by the way, deficit spending is really the only way to make a business, unfortunately, in the first place, unless you're independently wealthy. So there's nothing wrong with debt per se, but he seems to sort of live and die by it. And the number of times what was that? Hey, Jon Stewart had said this. Yeah, he was poor and he still managed to be a dick. Was when he because of the huge leveraging of debt, he was actually in the hole about $1 billion is at least what he had reported at the time. So he's with
yeah.
his daughter and they're in front of Trump Tower and he sees a homeless guy on the street begging for change and he goes and says, "See that guy? That guy's richer than I am." It's like, oh, for fuck's sake. But it looks like the only
Oh,
money that he's really made in the last 10 years has been through reporting losses in his business and getting rebates back from the IRS. And if that's the case, and that's what it looks like, and that's what was the conclusion from what the IRS, not the IRS had really started, the New York Times released, they're going to want that money back, and he's going to add. So it looks like he's failed at every business. It's just by really unscrupulous means has managed to keep himself afloat, but he certainly doesn't have the money he claims to either.
Well, that's the
speaking
thing.
of
And
which,
a lot
you
of
That's
see,
pretty
lot,
sad.
there was a
I,
lot of businesses that he didn't own, but like he leased his name out to, and even a lot of those properties failed. And so, in a lot of cases, what he's done is he's either gone into debt himself, or he's gotten other people to go into debt for his benefit. And in all cases, he's
speaking
basically walked away from it.
speaking of his tax
Yeah, I
returns,
was
did
gonna.
you see the DOJ ordered Congress or ordered Trump to turn over his returns to Congress?
I did see that. Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic, but the obstructionism and I mean, they're still, despite I mean, it's really a tie. People keep saying Congress is run by the Dems now. No, it's not. It's a tie, and it's just that, okay, there's a tiebreaker, but the reality is they've got no room to maneuver, none whatsoever. So, and the pro-Trump side is radicalized. So they are dead set on winning, and the Dems are not that cohesive. They're cohesive, but they're not that cohesive.
Yeah.
Well, I still think the January
Yeah.
6th commission is a waste of time, but
Why
Why?
do you say that?
because we already know what happened, we don't need to investigate it.
No, actually, well, we've already found out more than we've already known. So, I completely disagree. I think we should find out everything that happened that we don't yet know. Um, and if there's more people that were legally culpable, then they should be held accountable.
Well, can this commission so here's the question. I don't think the commission is empowered to issue any kind of grand jury or anything like that or impanel them, but presumably what they find can be handed off to a state district attorney or to a federal prosecutor. So can they at least collect evidence that could lead to some kind of charges?
Yes, because all the testimony and the testimony, generally speaking, is under oath, so it is admissible in the court and do other proceedings. So get that on the record, and they can actually, and although they didn't do it when Trump was president, they can subpoena people, and now while their subpoena power, their ability to enforce subpoena power is only whatever they can do with Capitol Police. But it means if anyone who's in D.C., they could be arrested and made to testify.
I'm sorry, their subpoena power absolutely should be going further than that, and I'd like to get his Andering's take on that. But the reason it doesn't is because a packed court found a Republican in there who would get in trouble by by those subpoenas, and so they said no. If that had been Obama or Biden in there, I have a sneaking suspicion the subpoenas by Congress would have been enforced. But I'm for they have the right to subpoena you, and you have to show up. What are your thoughts, as Andrew?
Certainly. I mean, if they're investigating a rather troubling situation that happened in the Capitol grounds on federal property, they should have every right to subpoena those people they need to subpoena to find out what was happening. I think that they should do an investigation and find out what was going on behind the scenes. I'd really like to know what was going on behind the scenes. They've got some pretty good video evidence of what people were doing inside, and I think they should be pursuing and prosecuting those people that broke into the Capitol building, which they are doing.
Yes, but how do we know this?
So yeah,
how do we know this isn't going to turn into another Benghazi? It seems like political theater.
Who cares? Let it turn into political theater.
A lot of it is political theater, and you're going to get political theater anytime you're dealing in politics. That's going to happen, But there's when you have an attack on the Capitol building, you have people breaking in, threatening to kill senators, threatening to kill the vice president. We should probably investigate that, and we should find out what happened, how it happened, so that we can make sure that it doesn't happen again. There's a lot of weird things that went on that day, a lot of things that were kind of behind the scenes, not really out. The riot itself and the break-in of the Capitol building, that was all on video. We kind of know what happened there. I want to know what happened behind the scenes, what led up to some of these things. What were the actions of the people that we didn't see? How did they get into the Capitol building? Why wasn't the Capitol Police there in force? There's a lot of things that I'd like to know about that.
Well, for instance, we found out some things recently about the whole as to why the National Guard was not armed. They were basically told they weren't allowed to cooperate with the Capitol Police. They were not allowed to be armed. They could not borrow weapons or equipment from the Capitol Police. So basically, they were asked for. Congress asked for them, and they were basically prevented from doing their job. So, and that basically ultimately ties back to Trump and his people. But that's something that needs to be accountable for instance.
But Congress is not a competent investigator. Maybe we should have people doing this in the background like we've already been doing.
All right. And what I'm going to do, and I'm getting a mild echo here. So
also, Joe, which one of us hacked Nick's?
I'm sorry, what?
Which one of us?
Which one of us hacked Nick's vMix account?
Well, and I've got Jason here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get him in. I think his audio should be up. So, Jason, do you want to say hi?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can. I assume everyone else can too. All right, I'll get your camera up in a minute, but you're in the show. So, welcome, Jason. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, great to be here. First time on your show, Nick. Appreciate that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you coming by. You and I have done streams together, but yeah, this is the first time you're here. So, and you're seeing all these technical issues, and I want to make it crystal clear: this is an average show. This is exactly what happens every time. So,
totally.
Fewer people.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
It's an average show with fewer people.
Well. Because it's a call-in show, there's a few other moving parts. Okay, but yeah, it's in time, not competent. Anyways, welcome. So, while I get your camera up, what was it you wanted to chat about?
I'm not sure if I had like a specific question, but I found the political discussion intriguing, and I know you guys were just talking about the subpoena power aspects, and so I find that very interesting, kind of the legal machinations around that and how that intersects politically. Particularly, I don't know if this intersects with the topic, but just when the Trump administration was in office, the kind of reliance upon the ability for individuals to not respond to subpoenas using like kind of legal concepts in the Reagan era. Like if you're part of the administration, I'm not going to respond to your subpoena because of a presidential, I forget what the specifics is, but like the president exerting his authority over confidential information. I found that to be really legally tenuous.
All right. He's in. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Well, like I said, part of the issue is that Congress can issue subpoenas, they can hold people in contempt for not showing up, but they have limited ability to enforce it, and that's part of the problem. Because the big thing is separation of powers. Department of Justice is part of the executive branch, so there's some limits on what Congress can do. Now, and to Sinister's point earlier, now if we actually had some enough Republicans with integrity, then Congress as a whole can impanel a special prosecutor that would actually have the authority to kind of go beyond what the Capitol Police can do, and as far as issuing and enforcing subpoenas, and that would actually give them the power of the U.S. Marshals, which they can then get anybody anywhere on continental United States, but unfortunately without the entire Congress voting for some sort of auspices to operate under, we're kind of stuck. And that's showing a weakness in the system that I don't think we really realized, or certainly the founders didn't realize we had, because they assumed that most people in Congress would be upstanding and would put the country over their party. So, silly them.
All right. Mr. Tom, I have a question because I think we all want to know this. Do you know who Mr. Park is?
Oh, is his audio? Or hold on,
I'm just going to assume the answer is no. But
Jason, you there?
Was that question for me?
Yes, it was.
Oh, I'm sorry. Could you repeat it?
Oh, I'm just wondering, does anyone know who Mr. Park is?
I have no idea.
No.
I don't know. That was either a sock or a troll or a joke that just went completely over my head.
I see. Like, there was a comment from Mr. Park.
Yeah, there's been a Mr. Park, and I have a sneaking suspicion it's somebody I know, maybe even someone on the panel. I don't know, but these things are above my pay grade. So
I tried to share an article about the congressional subpoenas from the congressional website, but the link is too long for the chat, so I put something from Reuters, which won't be quite as good, but.
You should have been able to use Bitly to shorten it.
So,
I think.
Yeah, please.
I'm sorry. I think Joe was bringing up a good point, which is kind of the politicization of facets of things like, subpoena power, or we could go into several other topics, but. Like the filibuster, or like there are a lot of components that have, over the last, 20 years or so, have, it's the things that create kind of roadblocks, that they create kind of the political, like the preventions, like you're able to like kind of stonewall based on a limited number of people. Those things now have bled over into criminal and legal proceedings, where previously that it was kind of assumed that at a certain level, even if you were a Republican or a Democrat, you have some integrity in terms of criminal process, but clearly that has kind of bled over into those areas.
And there's always going to be a certain amount of partisanship, but I mean, even during Watergate, it was really Nixon's own party members that basically went to him and said, "Hey, look, dude, it's over. You need to go." and that's why he quit, because they were like, look, we can't support you anymore. You're done. So there was certainly a lot more integrity in the Republican Party back then, and there was Democrats, that were not thrilled with Clinton either. So when he was impeached. So, but yeah, we're so tribal, and one side particularly. I just can't imagine. And yet, for that matter, I mean, if you look at the number of indictments and convictions when when the various parties are in office, it's not even close. So one side has become far more corrupt than the other. I'll grant you that both sides have a certain level of corruption involved, but one side's dramatically more corrupt than the other at this point.
But that will probably inspire the right to get, the left to get even more corrupt. Honestly, I mean, this is unfortunately what happens when you get this level of polarization. So, are we looking at things getting? We are more polarized now than at any time since the Civil War. That statement was first uttered about 10 years ago, and it's only gotten worse. So, where are we headed from here?
Well, until we can do something about the problems technology is causing, for one, nowhere. Nowhere good, anyway.
Yeah. The other big problem too, to your point about Nick, about the left potentially getting more corrupt. It's kind of difficult, because if you think about it, if you're trying to play by the rules for the most part, and the other side basically has told you, we don't give a fuck about any of the rules. None of them matter. We'll jump up and down when you get even mildly close to breaking the rules, but we really don't care, because we're going to break all those rules when we're in power anyway. It's very difficult, because it's kind of like, well, if you don't at least bend the rules, you may not be able to have any. You may be in a in a really worse situation. I mean, just imagine if January 6th had been successful. I mean, we probably wouldn't even be able to have this conversation.
Well, I mean, you're going to lose, right? I mean, at some point, if the other side is fighting a certain kind of war, you either fight the same kind of war back, you're going to lose. And that was sort of my point about, I'm not pleased with the Dems doing this tactic that I really didn't like when Republicans have done it. And it's not, they are not exclusive. It's been both parties. But the last few times that I took note was when the Republicans ran out of the state to stop quorum, so that you couldn't have a vote. And I was just like, hey, guys, row up. You don't like the vote. It happens. Now the Dems are doing it, and it's just sort of like, okay, so, and the Dems feel like we have to because the rules are out the window, right? But that's, every side is able to justify it each time. And there are plenty of good people on the right. Please don't tell Xandring I said that, and he's certainly not amongst them. But and there's a lot of them are sitting there saying, you can't force the things that the liberals have been trying to do. So anyways, I think Porpoise was about to say something.
Well, not every conservative is, and I hate using this term, but it applies, is what I call a Trumpster fire.
A Trumpster fire. I like that one.
Yeah. I mean, the one big danger the Democrats have right now, and to your point, Nick, is that okay, now there were more progressives that came out and voted Democrat this time than in 2016. But because of that, of course, the expectation is bigger, and so the problem that the Democrats have right now is they have to get at least some of their legislative agenda through, and to basically show the progressives that they weren't lying, that it wasn't just made up bullshit to get votes. Because unfortunately, see, the right wing is very good about voting for people they hate as long as it's on their basic side of the fence, and they always go and they always vote. And on the left side, it's not so much. So the problem is that you will end up with a lot of cynical progressives who may stay home again if they're left. So basically, the Democrats are kind of forced to, like, well, if we don't kind of use every trick in the book to get something passed to show that we're sincere, we're going to get crushed in 2022 and 2024, and then it's up, because quite frankly, I mean, I think the coup attempt in January 6th was fairly incompetently run, thankfully. But if we get to that spot again where they have another shot at it, they're going to succeed next time. Make no mistake. And unfortunately, you can say that all you want to the more extreme and the progressives, but they're not going to listen. They're not going to care. They're going to be like, oh, we're going to teach them a lesson, and then we're going to be really fucked.
I don't think a lot of us realize just how close that came to succeeding. Now, the other thing is, I understand where you're coming from, Joe, but I also think that's part of the problem here. We need to stop seeing these political battles as the right team winning. There are too many people concerned. It's like, oh, let's own the libs, and they're doing things that aren't necessarily good for them in the long run, like especially in areas where that used to be a factory run, or certain areas of Pennsylvania are a good example where they had to rely on coal mining in the past. They're like largely conservative, even though they used to be like blue-collar Democrat, and they're like, oh, Trump's going to bring back these jobs. It's like, no, he's not. These jobs, first of all, most of them are in West Virginia now. And secondly, even the coal mines that are running aren't going to hire more miners because they have more efficient operations. Now, there is something, fracking has revitalized a lot of these old coal towns in Pennsylvania, but fracking has its own problems, and the fracking Marcellus Shale isn't going to last forever either. So they need to start, I guess what I'm saying is there needs to be better messaging, reaching out to these people instead of dismissing them.
I agree with that point. I definitely, well, I've said many times before, I don't know if I've ever said it in any of these streams, but one big mistake that Hillary made was being so gleeful about killing coal and all that. Not that we shouldn't be trying to move away from coal, but when you're doing that, you're just knowing that you're going to be displacing a number of people. You shouldn't be gleeful about something that's going to land a lot of people on the unemployment line. And that was an enormous mistake on her part. And of course, I think that contributed directly to her losing Pennsylvania, because she was way ahead in Pennsylvania prior to those statements. And I think that hurt her badly.
The deplorables.
Which part of Pennsylvania did she lose? Because she didn't lose the primaries. And
no, I'm not talking about the general election. In 2016, the general election. 2016. I just said that.
All right.
Well,
she made comments about killing coal, and of course the Republicans seized on it, and so then all those towns you're talking about that are dying no matter what, whether she got elected or didn't get elected, those jobs, as you pointed out already, those jobs are going away. But when you give the impression like, we're gonna kill it, and people are like, hey, I'm trying to put food on my table, what are you doing to me? Instead of saying what she should have been better saying, and something that the Democrats have always been better at as far as the message goes, and say, hey, we are the party that cares about workers, and we care about the safety net, and what we want as those jobs go away, we're the party that's going to, one, make it a soft landing, and two, help you find other work. And that's a message that could have resonated, but unfortunately that's not the tax sheet, though.
I want to point out,
and I say this as someone who voted for her.
She lost by only a couple thousand votes in the right places. If you take a look at the right places, I mean, of course, she won by the popular vote. Right. She lost but if she had just gotten in a couple of districts, a few extra thousand votes total, it would have flipped. So it's depending on what happened there. So I think Jason was going to say something too, or was I missed that? Who?
Oh. I mean, this is a really interesting topic. I was kind of just listening. But however, I think it's extremely complicated. Like, I think that, like, as an example, you guys have been saying about the so-called failure of the, January 6th coup, or whatever you want to call it. I'm not necessarily sure it failed. It may have failed with regards to what the overthrowing or stopping the election, but I think it had, it's in alignment with the degradation of our political systems and tapping into these base fears that people have. And that's why Trump won. He tapped into these components that of fear that may even be antithetical to people's own, what their own needs are. He was able to tap into that, and he tapped into it because he's a bullshitter. He's able to talk out of both sides of his mouth and tell people what they want to hear, but at the same time try to balance that. So I guess my only point is it's that politics are a new game now. I mean, it like Republicans see that they can tap into the extremes. They can leverage the technology, as Sinister Porpoise was saying. They can tap into the technology to be able to capitalize on that tribalistic fringes, and they can use that to win elections. And so it's a kind of a scary thing where I think we had a perfect storm of Trump running, of technology, and the grassroots, like turf, whatever you would call it, I forget, astroturf concept that has been building up over time. All those things are now in play, and it's created a very complicated situation where I don't think, you can just say, the Democrats had a really effective policy to promote certain things, that it's going to sway voters. I think voters are voting against their own interests based on some of these aspects, and that I don't know what the answer is, but it's a really complicated situation.
Well, keep in mind that to a trans woman, turf means something else. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah. When I said astroturf, I'm not trans exclusionary feminist, but I mean, like, just like the grassroots astroturf concept, which is kind of creating a fake aspect of grassroots efforts. Like I'm like, the concept of like, let's grow this base from the ground up. The Republicans are like, we can kind of artificially induce that, and that has been happening for many years, but that aspect is tapped into even more so with social media, and with technology.
I think it is technology that's part of the problem here, but I think there's an aspect you're missing, or maybe you did touch on, and that's that Russia deliberately used social media to exploit these divisions. We know Russia interfered in the 2016 election. It's not up for debate.
Yeah, agreed. I totally agree with that. And I think Russia certainly exposed a weakness and showed that it could be taken advantage of. And the ironic thing is our own internal politics groups now realize they can do the same thing. Maybe not to the extreme that Russia did, but in some ways they can do that. And like, I think I read recently, like the issues of vaccinations, like the misinformation around vaccinations has been being spread by like 12 or 6 social media accounts that account for like the vast majority of COVID vaccination false information, which is an example that like folks in the United States can recognize that they can do what Russia did in some kind of parallel way, if I could say that.
But we were going to have that anyway, because the internet's greatest strengths are also its greatest weaknesses. It's very easy to get information, but it's very easy to get inaccurate information. First of all, we've given Google way too much power just because it's a useful search engine. And the laws haven't really caught up with it yet.
Well, the thing is, what's the solution for Google?
Well, for Google, what I would want to see is I want the behavior where it searches for the stuff it thinks I'm interested in turned off by default. This is AI they've developed over the years. It didn't always used to be that way. So now it's showing me targeted results, which can be useful. I mean, certainly if I'm looking for something specific that will be what I'm looking for, that's fine. But if I'm looking for general information, it's like, I don't need to know that, let's say I'm a COVID vaccine nut, and I say COVID vaccine fake. I don't need to know that it's fake. What I need is valid information telling me it's not fake. But what Google is designed to do is show you that the vaccine is fake.
And that's one of the one. Yeah. So it gets different results where if you were to say, is the COVID vaccine safe, might produce different ones than is the COVID. So the search results are going to be tailored to however you phrase a question. So even if you think you phrased a question innocuously, or is the COVID vaccine fake? That's going to generate more ones confirming that it's fake than what the evidence is that it's real.
Well,
there's also the fact that that things are targeted based on when it's figured out your politics already are. So if I put in my the exact same search terms as a Sandring, we're going to get back different results.
That's true too.
Yeah, let's say all three of us put in gun control. Sandrine's probably going to get more right-wing results. Joe will get more left-wing results, and I don't know, I might get something about a steady aim. Because that's what Google thinks we want.
Yeah.
And
the thing is
that's
how
what
do you regulate that without that being a First Amendment violation?
You just say, well, first of all, we have a bunch of boomers in Congress, and I hate to use that term, who don't really know how technology works. They're trying to.
I'm asking you, someone who is very, very familiar with technology. How do you legislate that without violating the First Amendment?
All you have to do is just say, "Hey, you keep this behavior because it's useful to Google's business model, and they're going to fight it." But you just say it needs to be turned off by default. People can go in and change it.
So you have to opt into the behavior, which they do all the time with emails now declaring the email lists have to be opt-in, and so which was been the only way to protect consumers against a variety of it. Still happens, but yeah,
it's much like when radio and television came out. We needed laws to regulate it better.
So I'm trying to. Okay, so this was February. I mentioned this earlier, but I wanted to find it because it's one of those ones that the claim sounds outrageous. I think probably everybody here had heard of it before, but I wanted to actually find the actual incident. So February 16th, 2012, showed up in the Business Insider. Target breaks through a new level of customer tracking by identifying a pregnant woman. She was a teenager.
I remember the story. Yep.
Yeah, and her father didn't know she was pregnant. She was hiding it. Nobody in her family knew she was pregnant. She knew, and the next person to find out, or the next entity to find out, was Target. Target figured it out by I'm sorry, what purpose?
Oh, sorry, I was just going to tell a story based on changes in her purchasing behavior.
Yes, they identified changes in her purchasing behavior. It was an algorithm by a man named Andrew Pohl, who had a statistical algorithm that was able to identify properties of customers and how you could sell more to them by identifying certain things. That algorithm had successfully identified she was pregnant, even though she told no one. And she started getting coupons from Target for diapers, baby formula, all this other stuff. And her father started to get upset and said, wait a minute, why are you sending them to someone? And she was, I think she was like 16. It was a big, it was like, why are you sending her these products? She's not pregnant. She can't possibly be. And they took a look at their algorithm and they're like, yeah, we think she is. So Target figured it out before, and that's how the dad found out. Because he started talking to her, and the way he found out was through Target, who figured it out before him.
That brought
you can't put the genie back in the bottle.
Yeah, that's insane.
You know, like you're not going to stop what's happening with this. I mean, I don't know what the answer is, but these kinds of activities technologically are going to continue to happen, and society has to adjust its ability to regulate and police these kinds of aspects. But I mean, here's the one thing I would say about this: that I think that much of the issues that we have are based in education. They are based in a poorly educated populace who is willing to believe crazy conspiracy theories, that they think that QAnon is real. They think that the vaccine is going to kill them. They don't believe in climate change. They believe the earth is flat. They believe in creationism. I mean, they were able to like isolate ourselves into these areas on the internet where we're reinforced by other people that have those viewpoints. And because we have degraded our educational system for years and years and years, we have lowered the education level of our populace to the point where they are willing to believe some of these things, and it's affecting our politics. So to be able to say we need to implement policies that prevent certain things like crazy conspiracies or aspects, and I'm not talking about the AI piece, but just in general about like information that may be proliferated on the internet, to somehow stop that. I'm not sure that's possible. I mean, maybe it is in some respects, but anyways, I'll stop rambling. But it's again, I think it's a complicated issue, and I don't know what the answer is.
You're always going to have.
If only there were more shows on YouTube that are going to have, doctors on as guests that are proponents of things like critical thinking. If only there were more shows that were going to do that.
That's not this one.
I just want to address something that's said it was said in the comments, because I think it's an important.
Hold on. Bad porpoise, no fish. Bad porpoise, no fish. That's the new line.
Keep running into this for quite a while, is that when people will point out things, they'll say, "Oh, well, we need a constitutional amendment for this, that, and the other thing," like getting overturning Citizens United. I don't disagree that's something that is necessary. But the problem is that we can't even get basic legislation through. The idea that we're going to get a constitutional amendment is beyond a pipe dream, and quite frankly, is such a waste of time. That normally I would be like, yeah, let's talk about everything. I'm like, no. We can't fix the basic shit. There's the chances of getting a constitutional amendment are actually less than zero. So it's less than zero. It's actually it's completely wasted effort. And again, I don't disagree that we need these. I'd be more than happy to have a constitutional amendment to get rid of the electoral college, all the things you want, but they're not going to happen. I always ask people to say this: do you know how the process works? Like, you have to get 2/3 of the House, 2/3 of the Senate, 2/3, 3/4 of the states, or you can bypass Congress and go directly to the states. Oh, wait a minute, 31 states are run by Republicans. Ain't happening. It's not going to freaking happen. So even talking about it is a waste of breath and a waste of effort and money and time. It's not a pipe dream. It's more crazy than a pipe dream.
I think Jason brings up a good point, though. We have devalued education in this country. Now, if you've taught in high school at any point, you probably know some people just aren't going to go on to college. And those people definitely should have options for them to have a career path that doesn't necessarily include college, maybe a trade school. But a lot of the same people who should go on to college are being told, oh, you don't need a college education, and it's been made more difficult to get over the years, especially largely because of private schooling. And I hate to say it, the Reagan administration did have a lot to do with this, where the tuitions go up. And I don't know, I noticed the college I just finished courses with said they were going to freeze tuition and not charge for the books, but the college I transferred to raised their tuition. Anyway, that's total. We need to get the point out that education is cool. We need to stop saying, like, common sense can solve everything. It's like, common sense is not going to give you a vaccine. Common sense will tell you that mask mandates don't work, or that because of COVID, we didn't have the flu.
So,
well, the other thing too, we don't teach critical thinking, and there's actually been like a 4-decade effort by the right wing to actually to denigrate and take it out of the schools. I mean, if you remember a couple of years back when R and Ra, among others, were basically testifying in Texas State
I
House
think Nick wanted to make a point, though.
Yeah.
about
Let's let
the
him finish.
school book
And
things.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
about
wanna hear
about the school books, what goes in the school books, where they change slaves to workers, and all this kind of stuff. So they're hiding slavery in the textbooks and all this kind of stuff. So it's not surprising when they're freaking out over the 1619 project, which is intended to kind of roll back on that.
Well, so I was going to ask you a question.
Like,
Please finish.
go ahead. I was just going to say, all this critical race theory thing, it's like most people can't tell you what it is, and I can't tell you what it is, so I'm not going to listen to some Tucker Carlson who is just saying it's being taught in the public schools when it's a college level idea.
Well, so okay, I actually have a couple of questions, and if I don't get to all of them, that's perfectly fine. But so one of them is Japan, which is fiercely competitive and values it's supposed to be a meritocracy, and it's supposed to value that, and yet it has a fiercely anti-intellectual streak running through it. Kids who are extremely successful in school are bullied. People with new ideas, unless they find a way to successfully integrate them into business and to approach people correctly with them, can get shot down and even humiliated. We have a very strong anti-intellectual streak in the U.S. It appears to me to be getting bigger. At least that's just my view. I don't know very much about the Scandinavian countries. I'd like to think it's less there. They have a 99% literacy rate. It's actually really 100, but it doesn't matter. It's you end up so. Is anti-intellectualism getting worse, and what is the source of anti-intellectualism, especially if it is, in fact, sort of the cornerstone of so much of our success in this country?
Good question.
Well, that kind of assumes that we actually have a meritocracy.
Well, I don't think we necessarily do. So I agree, but then why not? If it's so obvious, look, I make the argument all the time. Very simple. I believe personally that science is the single most successful endeavor in human history. Okay? We have been able to take a person who was standing, living, breathing in Texas, launch him off the Earth, which is spinning and in orbit of the sun, in a spiraling galaxy in an expanding universe. We were able to get him to land on the moon, get out, do a little jig, get off the moon, come back and land, and eventually be standing in Texas alive again. That is a huge fucking achievement. And that was science. So all of these successes, Porpoise is chomping at the bit, so we'll let her go first. But all of these successes, I think science is the single most successful endeavor in human history, and yet we have an anti-science streak, an anti-intellectual streak. And so my question is, why? How? What am I missing here? Porpoise, yes.
Well, I was going to say the major proponent of this country is fundamentalist religion. But I'm also going to point out that, shout out to Christopher Mouty here, the social sciences failed because Jeff Bezos came back.
That was it. Yeah. Oh, we got him into space. We know we can get him back. Now the question is, should we? Yeah, that was it.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different reasons, Nick. So it's hard to summarize, but I'll stick to a few because otherwise we'd be here all night. But it helps the narrative of those who have the money and power to promote the idea that success is the result of merit. So then this way, how many people who vote against their own interest do so because they think, well, those people who have the money and power, they must have done something right. They must be smarter. They must have worked harder, and all these other, things that, for the most part, are not true. So and this way, then you're far less likely to see that person at the top as an exploiter if you think that they earned what they have. you're far less likely to pick up a pitchfork and want to stab them. So it serves that purpose. But of course, we know there's people working for minimum wage or less who bust their ass, who are working crazy hours, who are the hardest working people on the planet, and they're never going to be successful because the system is not designed to allow them to be successful. So that's really what it is. So it serves a big purpose to do that.
So you're saying in part.
Sorry, go ahead.
So you're saying in part it's the U.S.'s puritanical streak.
In part, and the other thing too is that why people hate, the smart kid, because, it's weird. On the one hand, we both idolize and hate people who are really good. It depends on our proximity. From a distance, people tend to idolize them. Like, think of all the people who like Trump. They just love him. They think he's this rich billionaire. He's so successful. Isn't that amazing? But you don't like the guy who's busting the curve who's in the room with you, because now you feel insecure about your lack of ability to achieve their same level. And so, so that's really what it comes down. I really think what it comes down to, because I was one of those kids that, was disliked because I bust the curves. So proximity is a big part of that.
Well, I'm sure everybody is aware of the Dunning-Kruger effect. You've probably heard it a million times.
Listen, no, don't. I know so much more about Dunning-Kruger than you do.
Nick, you know so much more. You know so much that you're on Mount. No, I don't want to say you're on Mount Stupid. You're not on Mount Stupid.
Please continue.
But I think that exemplifies exactly the situation of like the bully, or the, we have individuals who are like, I know that my religion tells me, or I know, like Nick mentioned putting a man on the moon. Many people don't believe there ever has been a man on the moon. That they're like, you can't prove that. I have a belief, and you can't convince me of that belief. And the more you attempt to show me through science or other logical mechanisms, the more entrenched I become in my position, because of whatever cognitive dissonance or issues that I have with my own groups and the groupthink. I become more entrenched. And the example I would use is I'm a climate scientist. I have been involved in multiple grants where our efforts were to work with the community to be able to express, to convince them, like farmers, that having climate-friendly agricultural practices is actually beneficial to them, and it's beneficial to, the society and the planet. And we've gone to meetings, and it's like a scientist, a politician, and a pastor. And everybody hates the scientist. They won't even listen to what the scientist has to say. The scientists can talk about science, and people are like this. They immediately are like, I'm not listening to anything that you have to say. So this issue has become exacerbated from our political system. They've tapped into that. They're like, I know that people are going to not agree with the scientists. They're not going to agree with what Dr. Fauci says. They're not going to agree. So let's tap into that. Let's tap into that, and we can get them to vote in the ways that we want them to vote. And so it's really a vicious situation. But anyways, I'll just stop.
Well, I do have one question, because maybe I'm misunderstanding you, but could you state what the Dunning-Kruger effect is?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so if you have a XY axis, on the x-axis is what you actually know. On the y-axis is what you think you know. And so the Dunning-Kruger curve, it's kind of opposite probably from my way I'm showing it to you, maybe not. But if this is the x, this is the y, and this is 0, the folks at the very early on the x-axis that don't know a whole lot, a peak starts really high up in the beginning, which indicates that people who don't know very much think they know a tremendous amount. So but the more that you learn, then that curve goes down, and in the middle is this dip where it's people who have just gained enough knowledge to realize that they don't know that much. And then the curve starts to go back up. So as you become an expert in a particular area, then your actual knowledge aligns with what you think you know. But that initial peak is referred to as Mount Stupid. So if you're on Mount Stupid, you don't know very much in actuality, but you think you know everything. And those people are very dangerous.
Okay, now I understand what that had to do with that.
If you're
and that's called the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yeah, if you're familiar
put it more
with
simply,
Nephilim,
the less you actually know about a topic, the more confident you are in your answers.
It's not everybody, but traditionally. And that I'm not saying that everybody fits on that curve. I'm just saying that curve is a common place where people can fall. There are certainly people that don't know a whole lot that have the intellectual fortitude to say, I'm not very educated in this topic, and I'm not going to claim that I understand it. But that curve is a curve where I'm imagining from a confidence interval perspective that a lot of people fall on that. Yeah, there you go.
I'm going to put it up in the center there real quick. That is the Dunning-Kruger, and it's landed completely on Joe. Sorry, Joe.
That's all right. I know. I think that's probably better for the audience that they don't have to see my face. But
are you trying to say that Joe personifies the Dunning-Kruger?
No.
The Dunning-Kruger effect is supposed to make. Hold on. The Dunning-Kruger effect is not supposed to be used as an insult. It's supposed to make you think about your own competence, because I tend to be this way when I first learn about a topic.
The two good examples for Dunning-Kruger. One's an expression, the old expression of, this person knows just enough to be dangerous, and they often are.
Yeah.
But as a person, anyone who's familiar with the YouTuber, or he may be former YouTuber now, Nephilim Free. This was a guy who was constantly. I can see why you're laughing. You know who he is.
Oh, I know Nephilim.
Squeeze-ons.
He's a fun. For anyone who doesn't know,
squeeze-ons are my favorite particle.
He's a fundamentalist Christian, and he kept challenging atheists on evolution. And the big line that he kept using over and over that I always use as his tagline: I studied this for 2 years. Which, of course, 2 years studying anything is bupkis compared to anyone who actually has a degree. Secondly, his studying was going to, Answers in Genesis and a bunch of, fundamentalist Christian websites that basically told him what he wanted to hear, and not actually looking at any actual science. So this was a guy, he thought he knew everything, and he was complete and utter imbecile. Like the time that he tried to compare the motion of the solar system to a vortex, and I tried to explain to him that in a vortex that happens, like just say in a sink, because he actually used a sink as an example, the velocity at the surface of the sink is zero. And that's not how the solar system works. So because he knows nothing about friction and Reynolds numbers and shit like that. So, it was kind of lost on me.
Anybody who has to appeal to their own experience of how much they've studied it's a really good indication they don't know what they're talking about. I mean, that's.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
I guess I don't know anything about guns.
Would I enjoy this person as much as I enjoy young Pharaoh?
Oh yeah, you would. He's hilarious because he was so dumb. And the best part though was when he accidentally exposed himself, like not physically exposed, but he was doing a video on something, and somebody noticed that in his search history there were, or actually his favorites were escort agencies. So here he was, this fundamentalist Christian, and he had like multiple multiple escorts in his saved favorites.
He was trying to save them, Joe. He was trying to save them. He was doing the Lord's work. How your mind just went straight to the gutter because he was fundamentalist. biased.
You wanted them to get on their knees and pray, right?
Yeah, well, he wanted them on their knees, but yeah, okay.
Nice.
All right.
Jason, I think you may.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that much about it, so don't. I'm not claiming to be an expert on this, but the topic you were trying to break up earlier is called a filter bubble, and you may want to look it up.
What's it called? A filter bubble?
Yeah, sorry. It was about how search engines. I know it's going back to an earlier topic, but it's been bugging me. The filter bubble, basically, search engines put us to a filter bubble, sorting out the information that they think we want. Twitter does this too, so does Facebook.
Absolutely. I mean, certainly they construct learning algorithms that, based on your profile and what your information is, that they obviously filter the information that they think is the most valuable, not only to you, but what is going to be beneficial to them. They want you to come back. They want their advertising. If they think that if they can predict what you're going to type in there, and that's valuable to give you the information you want, regardless of whether it's some quack thing that aligns with what you're doing, or you're pregnant and they're going to send you an info about diapers. They want to do that, because it has a financial advantage to them. I totally get that. Right, so filter bubble. Cool. Thank you.
And never forget, any service that you use on the internet that's free, you are the product.
Yes.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I agree with that. The one thing I was going to also mention is on this topic of the, see if I can remember exactly, that when you're in a debate, when you're having these discussions with somebody and one person is on Mount Stupid, and let's say you're an expert in the field, and two people are having a conversation, and one person is like, I know for a fact the earth is flat. You can't prove to me that the earth isn't flat. They're coming at you with all this like whack information that they purport is evidence. It's almost a natural inclination for somebody who is a so-called expert in a particular area to say, you know what? I'm open-minded. I want to be willing to consider that my ideas may be wrong, because that is what an intelligent person does who is expertise in an area, to a certain extent. That gets taken advantage of. And so oftentimes you will find people that second guess themselves on a particular topic, even though they have infinitely more knowledge than somebody who is proclaiming knowledge in a particular area that has none. So, I see that over and over again.
You're right. Although I don't fall for that because I'm aware of that, and so what I do is like anyone who that I know that doesn't have any knowledge in that topic, I just tell them they're a fucking idiot and move on.
That has put into sharp relief so many of our conversations, Joe, and I think I'm going to have to re-examine the last couple of months of my life. Thank you for that. All right, let me interrupt real quick. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to just sort of start wrapping up a little bit. I think everybody still has a bit more to say, and I want to hear it. So I think, another 10, 15 minutes, if that sounds good for everybody. So, but I do appreciate everybody coming. So thank you all very much for coming. If you're in the live chat, and if you made it this far and you have not yet liked and subscribed, please do that. And or also come join us on our Discord. Anyone who wants to continue this on our Discord, please go ahead and do that. That includes any of you guys. If you want to show up in our Discord, I'll be in our Discord a little bit afterwards. Usually after we take these down, I go check on my family for a little bit, and I come back. So I'll be in the Discord a little bit after we wrap up. So just letting everyone know, again, the link should be down there in the bottom there. But like and subscribe. It does help us in the algorithm. And you can also become a patron. We're going to have our patron hang on this Monday at... I was going to say 3, but I just realized because my girls are now in camp and like people are going out again, the schedules will have to change. But we're going to have a patron hangout if you'd like to do that. But otherwise, let's please continue for at least a little while longer. And we were talking about among other things, Dunning-Kruger. The backfire effect is an interesting one, which is I just looked that up, and I'd seen a really great description of the backfire effect, and I haven't been able to find it, but essentially where the more evidence that somebody has that their belief is wrong, the more they entrench in the fact that it's actually correct, and it's just it's a crazy thing.
I just want
I
to
think
say,
we have a
Jason,
couple of.
I don't think I've encountered you before, but I'm glad that you came in because I think you're very cool and it's good. It's really interesting talking to you.
Yeah, thank you. That's really nice of you to say, Joe. I mean, I'm really glad to be on Nick's stream and to chat with everybody. And so I always appreciate the opportunity to chat with Nick. So always impressed by his intellect.
Oh, thank you very much, Jason. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Sinister, I do believe you're muted. That's usually my job, but yeah.
I think we have a couple of evolutional, fundamental human nature problems to deal with too, and the fact that generally human beings are fairly tribal and generally are emotionally driven. And anytime you want to try and manipulate a lot of people into believing a lot of things, appeal to them emotionally. Make emotional arguments, you don't make logical arguments. And you can see people defend their beliefs emotionally and not logically. So it's hard to overcome that, especially when you don't give them a lot of critical thinking skills at a young age. They don't have the tools, especially at a young age, because they start getting entrenched in that emotional beliefs instead of logical beliefs. They don't think critically about things. They're driven by their emotions. So I think that one of the ways that we can try and combat that, at least to some extent, is a very hard emphasis, especially at very young ages, on critical thinking and examining and questioning what we think we know, and trying to instill in children that, or at least maybe to keep children infinitely curious about the world around them.
Okay, and now, so just FYI, Sinister, I normally have like a little background noise on everybody, and I can see it, little background level on absolutely everyone except you. When I've double-checked your communication, we're getting 0 kilobits per second in terms of audio from you. So, what I can do is I'll just keep nodding or shaking until you get the sound back up. But I am nope, we still don't have it. I'm reasonably confident it's not my fault, which is really rare on this show. What were you going to say, Joe?
Were we not just talking about Dunning-Kruger?
You know what? Having said that, oh shoot, is Andring your sound just
You're
cut
reasonably
out?
confident.
Is Andring's sound just cut out? I have no idea what. I mean, there's nothing.
But Porpoise made a point earlier about the fundamentalist religionists in the country, and that is another part of it too, because there are your average run-of-the-mill religious person. I don't think that's an issue, but certainly for my fundamentalists, they view science as a threat to their belief system, and I guess it kind of is, because if you had critical thinking, you might still be a believer, but you probably wouldn't be a fundamentalist. So yeah, for them,
it threatens their belief.
Right.
Yeah, it's a threat to them emotionally. They're emotionally invested in this belief, and anything that may threaten that belief, they have an emotional, visceral rejection of, regardless, and they're lost in their emotions. So you can't reach somebody with logic who's thinking emotionally.
Right. And also, exactly. And I also saw a similar expression where someone said, you can't use logic to get somebody out of a position that they didn't use logic to get into in the first place.
Yeah, if they deny logic, what tool do you have to get them to,
I remember, and I don't remember who was involved in the discussion, unfortunately, so I can't credit the right people, but somebody was doing actually fairly well, kind of using a combination of logic and emotion to kind of, work on somebody.
I'm gonna interrupt. Sorry, I've been a little. So I think. We just somebody reset. I think that's Sinister. I don't know. We're gonna see if we can get Sinister's connection back. But I do want to say this. I just saw Oz in the live chat. I think he's been in there for a few minutes. But I been managing the show, so it took me a minute. But Oz, it is good to see you as always, and I am definitely still hoping to, and more optimistic than ever, that I can attend the Atheist Network Group conference in Fort Wayne, And so I'm looking forward to that. I did find out about your mother, and I am very sorry. I lost my father in November. It was not easy. So you absolutely have my condolences, and I appreciate you coming by. Thank you very much. It is, as always, very good to see you.
Yeah.
All right. Yes, please. You were saying.
As I was saying. So basically, the person trying to use logic, they mixed in some emotion, and they were making progress on the person who was. They weren't like a radical fundamentalist, but they were certainly on the eaves of fundamentalism. So they were maybe a little bit more reachable. And at one point, the fundamentalists basically said that, well, they kind of had to stay where they were at, because if they took the step that the other person was trying to get them to take, that they wouldn't know who they were anymore. And so the fear of you're basically moving away from some center that they had been at for like the bulk of their life, to kind of, which would really remake who they were too afraid to take that step because they didn't know what that would mean anymore. They'd never been there before.
Yeah.
I thought that was really kind of
it's an emotionally driven. Yeah, it's an emotionally driven response as well, and
yeah, exactly.
That's why I think we need to get children at very young ages, like start in preschool and grade school, and start with critical thinking skills, with very baseline philosophy concepts. I think those are the two things. Fundamental philosophy and critical thinking skills are going to be the only way that we can get us out of here, because we're predisposed to be emotional, and we find emotional stimuli more.
All right, Sinister, we got your audio back, and I was going to suggest we can do the, but it's a little loud, so I don't know we've got a lot of background noise on that.
Oh, hold on. I was adjusting my settings.
Oh, all right, well, perfect. Well, we certainly have it back. So anyways, you were saying, Xandring?
Oh, it's that we're very emotionally driven, and emotional stimulus is more stimulating than logical or purely intellectual. So, I think that a lot of people who aren't at the upper ends of the intellectual scale are affected far more by emotional arguments and the way that things make them feel, and we have to try and overcome that. And no matter where you fall in the intellectual scale, you can benefit from critical thinking. Learning critical thinking and basic philosophy.
And I wanted to point out, just because it was something that someone said earlier, and just I was preoccupied, so I couldn't do it at the time. But of course, too, religion was our first attempt at understanding the universe, right, and how things operate. So, we make all these guesses, we make all this intuition. Most of it's a lot of correlation implies causality. The wind moved, and then the cows died. So clearly, God moved the wind. That was our sign that he was going to kill the cow. And then, we just made all these. And so when we start to learn how it actually works, that is going to conflict with religion almost necessarily, because the whole point of religion was try to answer these things. And now that we have found a way to get around so many of our biases, we're not perfect at it. We found a set of tools called science, which is just a set of rules that help us get around our own faults in trying to understand things. We understand them better, but it's going to conflict with the previous answers, whether they were emotionally related or not. Anyways, I think his Xandring was wrapped up, and if he was, I think both Sinister and Joe had something to say. So, like I said, maybe 5 more minutes, give everybody a chance to say something, and then we're done.
Personally, I find the best way to deal with people who clearly don't know what they're talking about, and I know don't know what they're talking about, is to wear a ridiculous hat and mock them.
Yeah, and you are delightful at that. I will say, I think Sinister has a marvelous level of snark that is snarky enough to be entertaining, but at least in my view, this is my view, not vicious or really natured. It's snark, and it has a little bite to it, but it's not vicious, and it's not cruel. So I tend to, I like Christmas.
I love your hat.
On the other hand,
your hat.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are afraid if people are taught critical thinking, it means they're all going to think the same way, because they don't understand what critical thinking is.
Yeah. Yeah. If we all learn to free our minds, we're all going to be slaves to free minds. Yeah, I think that's it. Joe, you're muted.
You have free will. You have no choice in
Yeah,
the matter.
here we go. See, the thing that's kind of funny about that is that, of course, the people that are afraid that it'll turn us all into a hive mind are basically come from traditions that are kind of demand a hive mind. Like fundamentalist religion. You step out of that. You can be ostracized. They cultivate a hive mind and they tell you, hey, those guys, if you learn to think, you got it'll be like a hive mind. Like, dude, that's what you asked for. you know but well, see, my approach is, I mean, I generally don't, other than to mock, like Sinister said, I generally don't really deal with like the extremes because there's really no point. It's kind of a waste of time, at least for me. I mean, somebody else may do better at that, but I don't have the patience or energy for that. What I try to address, and it's always been my goal, like whenever I've done things on YouTube or whatever, is I go for those people that are reachable, that are kind of on the fence. There's a lot of people that kind of blithely go through life and don't really know, and they're not really entrenched. They may not like understand or accept critical thinking and science and all that, but they're not like a fundamentalist, and they might be swayed by fundamentalists. And so what I try to do is say, okay, yeah, here's why what that other person is saying is garbage, and here's a better way to approach figuring out what the real answers are. Because my thing is that if we can start to peel away the people that we can, or like those that I was saying before, that guy who was kind of on the eaves of fundamentalism but wasn't really entrenched, peel those people away, so you shrink the base of the hardcore. And what ends up happening, you find that, because usually what ends up happening, it's not strangers that bring people out of that. It's usually allies and friends. So if you can kind of grab those people who are on the eaves of those things and kind of peel them away and get them to think a little better, then they're more likely to bring others along with them in a way that, like, I as a stranger could never do, because I'm just some random shithead on the internet.
All right. Well, so what I'd like to do is this sort of wrap up. Anyone who's got any sort of last things they want to say, either just about anything we've been talking about, and or talk about channels and where people can find them, because I'm sure people are going to want to learn more about you guys. So please tell us where they can find you. So let's start. We'll go from the top down. We'll start with no, we won't start. Okay, well, that's a black space. There's nobody there, so I guess we'll start. Is Andring. We'll start with Andring, and anything else you wanted to say on the topic, or anything that you want to talk about where people can find you. And as you pointed out, I think that there's a place they'll be able to find you on Tuesday. But at any rate, please,
Yeah, that's about the only place they'll find me. I mean, if you want to watch like very short video clips of storms, I might got like 3 or 4 of those, and that's it. Don't really post anything on YouTube. So my only thing I'd like to say is, may we live in interesting times.
Yeah,
You already do.
Yeah, we've hit that one. All right, thank you. Sinister, any other thoughts about anything we've covered tonight, or anything else you wanted to say? And tell people where they can find you.
Well, do have a YouTube channel, but it's all privated right now. Depending on how things go over the next couple months, whether I have to go back to the job I was doing earlier this year, or if I stay with the job I'm doing now, I may come back, but I think I'm going to change directions. Because you can't mock the same person all the time. And probably do things more like Python tutorials, Linux tutorials. And I still need to do that, basically, a series on journalism at some point if I get back to streaming. Anyway, be excellent to each other, and so long, and thanks for all the fish.
All right. Thank you. Joe, any other thoughts on sort of anything we've discussed, and or where can people find you?
Not too bad. I think I had a pretty good closing on what we were talking about tonight. But as far as where to find me, I posted my channel, Serious Mind. I also posted a link to Black Culture Geeks. I am irregularly. I'm not a regular on the show, but I periodically am on. and so I will. And that's on Saturday, every Saturday from like 11 to 2. I am also on the Breakfast Club channel. This is the one that got that funk runs, and I'm trying to find a link for it, but I'm failing. But in any case, every Saturday night from 8 o'clock to somewhere between 11 and 12, and that's Eastern time, I am on that channel. We're doing a live stream. I intend to be doing videos from my own channel again soon, and obviously I'm on overtime and in time and out of time and whatever other other things Nick can tolerate me on, and then also Chris Mout, various Chris Mouty streams. So hopefully you catch up with me.
Yep. Perfect. All right. Marvelous. Thank you, Jason. Tell us a little bit.
Oh, sorry. I do have one. Sorry, I have one last thing. For anyone who knows me, like from Facebook or whatever, and I think I mentioned this last time I was on. My dog Molly, she had contracted cancer, and we had to say goodbye to her on Monday. So,
Sorry.
Yeah, she was 13. It was a Bichon Shih Tzu mix, and one of the most loving creatures I've ever encountered in my whole life. And it really hurt because she was otherwise healthy. She was still energetic, and she probably could have lived another 3 or 4 years at least. But what happened. So
I'm sorry to hear that.
Speaking of dogs, I should like to remind people that they need to live up and become the people that their dogs think they are.
That's it. That's a good one.
I agree. I never met somebody that owned a dog that wasn't a good person. Although I'm sure there are those people, but
I'm sure, yeah. Well, you can usually tell by the dog, right? Because I've seen dogs that I was at a dog park too, and I saw a guy who was beating his oh my God, I can't believe I can't even. It was what is it? The black spotted, the white dogs that have the Dalmatian. And
Dalmatian.
It was a nasty Dalmatian, and you're trying to figure out why it was such a nasty dog, and then all of a sudden you met the owner. And it was that wasn't it takes a special kind of depravity to be cruel to an animal that can't do anything about it.
I agree. Yeah.
All right. So I was actually going to kind of invite my dog on the stream, but maybe that may not be productive. But I'm sorry, Joe, because I remember I told Joe this story, which is kind of sent me into a spiral of depression because a lot of things went wrong in my life in a very short period of time. But it started with waking up when actually I hadn't woken up. No, I work nights. I'm much better at nights than I am in the daytime. And about 4 a.m. I was going to bed. And if I'd had a different schedule, we wouldn't have even caught it. But I come out, my dog was splayed out on the he was breathing, but something was very wrong, and we got him to the vet. But we found out that he had cancer, it had erupted. Nobody knew, and that was a very difficult night. I'm very sorry.
Yeah. What made it harder is that like my dog Blitzen died a year ago, March, and Molly was helping me get through that, and now she's gone too. So we still have one dog, Flash, and it looks like we're going to be getting another dog next week. Because my wife didn't want to. That was her buddy, and she needs the companion, so we're gonna get another dog.
If you ever need to talk, and if you ever feel, just call a Xandering. I'm sure he would be happy to be there for you. I'm busy,
I lost my Australian Shepherd last year.
Really? You know how to reach me. And you did. I'm sorry to hear. Wow, this has been kind of a depressing. And then Oz came in But it's oh my God, it's just one of those things. It's unfortunately it's life, and especially with COVID, it's been a very difficult couple of years, I think, for just about everybody alive.
Yeah.
So Jason, yeah, I follow that up. So Jason, any thoughts on the stream and or where can people find you?
I would just say I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you guys. It's nice to meet everybody. I always enjoy, intellectual, honest discussions on interesting topics, which I think was covered tonight. So that was pretty good. I put my email in the chat. So if anybody's interested in communicating with me, I'm a scientist. I'm actually at the University of Idaho. I'm a climate scientist. But online, I do some streaming on Twitch, Jason Torn, and I end up showing up on Amy Newman's stream occasionally, and Answers in Atheism. Speed of Sound, those guys. So I'm either working or doing some of those two things on those streams. But if anybody interested in contacting me on any scientific or religious aspect, I'm an atheist. You can email me.
And I saw. So, and you just bought the Water Thief. Is that what you said in the? Was that you who said that at the beginning of that you had gotten the Water Thief, or was that somebody else? Okay, that was somebody else. I was about to give you credit for something.
Yeah, I don't know.
You bastard. All right.
So you said you're a scientist in Idaho. Are you in Boise?
Correct.
I go
Say
through
it again?
Boise a hell of a lot, so maybe we can stop and have a beer. I said I go through Boise a hell of a lot, so maybe we can stop and have a beer sometime.
Yeah, but University of Idaho is in the northern Panhandle, so it's not exactly close to Boise. But if you're going through Idaho and you're in the northern portion and you're near Moscow, Idaho, hit me up, man. We'll go out and have a beer. So.
Yeah, I went. Yeah, I just went through there. I just went through Court Lane and I-90 today.
Yep, you probably went right through where I am. So.
All right.
Cool.
Well, thank you all. I saw that, Sinister. Thanks for that. Wow, that was clever. Cute. Very cute, Porpoise.
What did she do?
Very cute. Nothing in the live chat. She certainly didn't say that Joe could reach his Andering by dropping the in-time number. All right. All right. Thank you all very much for joining us. Thank you all for this was a great stream. I appreciate all of you guys coming in to hang. We're the current schedule is to do these every Friday night. We're still flexing, but if you guys want to come back on Friday night, we missed Eddie. He was just like, why didn't you guys let me in? You had plenty of time. I told him an hour ago we're wrapping up, but I hope he can come in next time. But this was a delight. So thank you all very much, and I look forward to seeing you guys again Tuesday. Yep, we're going to have on Dr. Todd, who was just on Neil 604, and he's going to be discussing his book, Why Critical Thinking is So Important. And I think I'm looking forward to that show, and that's going to be good. So thank you all for joining us, and look forward to seeing you soon. Have a good night.